Good evening, and welcome to the July 16th.
Recording in progress.
And welcome to the July 16th, 2025 Yarmouth Planning Board meeting. I am Joanne Crowley, Chair. The public is welcome to attend our meetings in person or via alternative public access provided on the Town of Yarmouth website. Our meetings are generally held on Wednesdays, the 1st and 3rd of the month, but additional meetings are added as necessary. I will begin by taking roll call. Susan Britta.
Here.
Deirdre Gagwin.
Here.
Will Rubenstein.
I'm here.
Welcome, Will. Jim Sabin. Peter Slovak.
Here.
Ken Smith.
Here.
Joanne Crowley, present. Seeing we have a quorum, I'll now call the meeting to order. And I would like to ask you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first item on our agenda are zoning amendments that we are interested in perhaps moving forward for the special town meeting in the fall. They are regarding retail sales of commercial fish and shellfish in residential zoning districts, on-site boat storage, and I guess additional RVs as well would be covered under that, right, Kath? Recreational vehicles would be covered under that?
yes, but we're only talking about boats
Boat
with regard to the
storage
exception.
tonight, yeah. And then also our consideration as to where we might be going with our ability for zoning amendments regarding accessory dwelling units. I see that the public is here, some members of the public are here tonight, and our building commissioner, Mark Grills. Thank you, Mark, for joining us. I just want to do a quick overview about zoning amendments. Remember that the planning board considers input from various members of the community. We have two items on the agenda tonight. The third one on ADUs is one that has been legislated by the Commonwealth, so we're required to address that at some point. But the two that are on the agenda tonight, so we go through this process. Tonight is the first time that we've seen some drafts, and any members of the public tonight who are here who would like to comment on them, I'd welcome them to share their opinions. We will have our own discussion about some options that Kathy and some of the attorneys involved with the petitioners, if you will, not technically petitioners, but the people of interest have put forward. But this is like the second step in the process, and there'll be more steps as we go along before it gets to a final determination as to what the zoning amendment change will actually look like. So I'd like to start with the first one. Kathy, maybe you can run us through retail sales of commercial fish, shellfish in residential zoning districts.
Sure. I think you have in your packet, and it's up there on the screen, is we did get some good information from our May 7th meeting, got a lot of productive comments, and we also got some additional information from John Tolley's attorney, Jonathan Poloni, with regard to some of the suggested amendments that he had. We did take a look at them. The first one had to do with to allow residential sale of fish and lobster predating the 1982 zoning bylaw. This is somewhat problematic because there is still that question of whether selling from the home was ever allowed. So even before 1982, so we don't want to try to solve a problem and then not solve it. The second option was to amend the B4 forestry fishing hunting use by adding footnote 7, which indicates retail sales require a special permit. And I note that this may be the simplest and most direct option, and that's the one that I drafted up and had discussions with the building commissioner as well as town council. The third one is really just adding a new category, use category, H3B, for the sale of agricultural products and sale of fish and shellfish. That's really similar to option B above. We also received some information from attorney Ari Bargel from the Institute of Justice, and some of the comments and proposed amendments that he had mentioned was to allow for the sale of freshly caught seafood from one's home as an accessory use with certain provisions. I outlined the definition of an accessory use as a use customarily incidental to and secondary to allowed use and not detrimental to the neighborhood. And selling commercially caught seafood does not really appear to be a typical or customary in a residential neighborhood. The second option there is creating a new use category for the sale of freshly caught seafood consistent with the same permissions as a farmer's market. This would be somewhat similar to the option C above, where we'd be adding a new use category. However, farmers markets are really for a collective of vendors to sell something, and it's limited to town property and regulated by a select board policy. So that didn't quite seem to fit either. And then the third option was to modify the home occupancy section to allow for retail sales signs and non-resident employees, which would then, of course, allow for the sale of fish and shellfish in residential neighborhoods. Making these modifications to home occupation is a little bit more encompassing, I think, than what we were thinking about to really solve the current problem at hand. And we do know from some of the input that we received from the public for things like accessory apartments that people are already concerned about the movement of commercial endeavors into residential neighborhoods. So in reviewing all of these and talking with town council, as I mentioned, we came up with some draft amendments for consideration by the board. I'm just going to get to those so everyone can see them. So basically, this is the use table, and just doing a modification to the use table. Talking about adding retail sales for fishing, I kind of separated it out from forestry and hunting. We didn't necessarily want to add retail sale capabilities for that. We don't want someone starting to sell trapped rabbits at their homes and that type of thing. So there's a different category, a B5, that's just for fishing, and it includes allowing for the note 7 there for retail sales via special permit. And I modified note 7 here to just clarify that it's from the Zoning Board of Appeals. Occasionally, you guys are the special permit granting authority, but it's really the Zoning Board of Appeals. And then, in addition to any other applicable special requirements, individuals selling legally harvested or caught seafood, including but not limited to fish, shellfish, lobsters, and crabs, shall be in compliance with all applicable local, state, and federal regulations. They only sell what they have personally caught or harvested, and the seafood must be sold whole and not prepared or processed. I actually used some of the language from some of the attorneys in this. They had talked specifically about selling it whole, which I thought made a lot of sense to include in here. The highlighted section has to do with signage. I just put something in there for discussion purposes of limiting signage in residential zoning districts, limited to one A-frame sign, not to exceed 6 square feet in an area to be located on the property during the hours of operation, which shall be conditioned via the special permit. That's somewhat similar to what we allowed for food trucks, where someone could have an A-frame sign out while they're open, so people knew that they were kind of open for business at that time. I do know there was some question of off-premises signs, but if you allow it for one business, you're going to have to allow it for everybody. And to be fair, I think we want to not delve into off-premises signs at this time. One other thing that got changed is I did notice that the 7 special permit requirement was included in the B1 and the B2 zoning districts for the B1 use, B2 use. And they're already allowed by right. So we don't want to create a special permit requirement for someone who could sell fish by right in a B2 zoning district. That's what Mr. Tolley is actually doing right now on town-owned land. He's selling it retail. And then I just added that one of the notes was that there really was, in some of the documents that went to the Zoning Board of Appeals, was that there's really no definition for fishing in our zoning bylaw. So we included catching, harvesting, or taking a finfish, shellfish, lobsters, crabs, or other seafood from a natural habitat, just to kind of identify what fishing entails.
Okay. Members of the board, any questions or comments? Ms. Britta?
Does anyone have an update on how successful the operation on Route 28 has been?
Don't.
I've driven by.
I stopped in
Right.
and spoke with the Mr. Tolley, and he seemed to be doing okay. The location seemed to be working for him at the point, but that was several weeks ago, so that's my only personal.
I've driven by several times on Fridays, and it seemed to be very successful on a couple of Fridays. The cars were parked down West Yarmouth, and, the parking lot was full. when that arrangement was set up, was there a requirement that he report back to the town? Or how is anyone going to follow up whether that was a successful engagement or not?
That was all done through the town administrator's office and the select board, so I'm not privy to that, but probably not. My understanding, it was a temporary endeavor in
Right.
order to accommodate this season, so we didn't lose this season of sales, and then while we were working on this zoning amendment for the fall.
Was there any discussion, Kathy, are you aware of when this was set up, that if it was successful, it could be continued on that spot as opposed to?
I do
No,
not know.
don't know, okay. Is there any way you could follow up on that to see if in fact that was ever contemplated? That may be, that the 28 arrangement may be made more permanent? Because it seemed very successful, of course, the location's wonderful. I don't know if that was ever discussed, but if you could just verify whether it was ever discussed as maybe if it was successful, would that be an accessible alternative to Mr. Tolley?
I can check on that.
Okay. And then, I just did a couple of, in terms of some of the language, Kathy, as you know, I'm always very concerned about using adjectives. Freshly caught, how do you determine freshly caught? And who's going to monitor that? Is that going to be, under the special use permit, would the health, I would assume the health department would have to have some sort of role in determining whether there's sufficient ice or refrigeration or whatever is required to keep fish fresh. And then, so that's on site, but the term freshly caught, how's one going to monitor freshly caught? I know.
They need to be inspected by the health department to make sure that they're properly handling food product, like any person selling fish. But I think a lot of times, if it becomes a particular issue, the town would get notified by somebody, and then that would be something. He doesn't want to be selling fish that's
Oh, no,
not
I agree.
acceptable.
I agree. And we certainly don't want people buying fish that makes them sick.
Right.
You know, if it goes bad. So I just don't, but it's things like that, I mean, it's freshly caught within 24 hours. I just don't know how we would interpret that. And I don't want to open up any health situations where, you know, the fishermen claim 48 hours is freshly caught, and the town is saying, no, it isn't. So I don't know whether we should maybe discuss that a little bit further.
What are you referring to here, Susan?
It says freshly caught, the seal of freshly caught, freshly caught. How is the town, and how are we going to monitor?
Those are the recommendations from the Attorney Bargo.
Right, so maybe he could, maybe someone could
But
answer
that's
that.
not what we're looking at. We're looking at this, on the page 1 of 1. None of that language is in the amendment that we're looking at right now.
Right, but I thought you
So
said you wanted
Kathy said-
general questions.
I do.
Okay.
But what Kathy has done is kind of sifted through the comments from two sets of attorneys, one who tried to, and we appreciate it, go through our actual zoning amendment and do a red line, do inserts, do a bunch of different things. And so she has presented her memo with the outline of where she recommends we go, because some of the recommendations from both attorneys can't be, really are not doable. And so the language freshly caught is not ours, it's not Kathy's, it's not the town's, it's what an attorney representing Mr. Tolley had put through. So that is not what we're considering here. What we're considering are the table, the change in the use table that Kathy's put together, and the change in note 7. That's what we're looking at. So part of this, and this is, you know, Kathy and I talked this morning, this afternoon about this. We got some really good information from both sets of, from both attorneys. And what we're trying to do is make it work in terms of how the zoning bylaw works for us, and the language and how it's constructed, kind of the way it would work best for us. And the language and changes that both of the attorneys took, Kathy molded them into this one change to the use table and note 7 to make it really simple. So that's what we're trying to do. We don't want to get into the language of the amendment, but the use table and the note are what we're really focusing on.
Okay, so you're asking whether we support the note?
What do we think about the use table?
The draft.
And the
full
note.
draft.
Well, in general, I think doing design or zoning changes is dangerous. I think it opens up Pandora's box for anyone that wants to have something at home that is currently not allowed. So as a public policy, I think they're dangerous. And I'm not sure we even need it if, in fact, there's an alternative, if that Route 28, agreement worked out, and we could even expand that to have other fishermen, because this is, my understanding, based on the hearing that we had, Mr. Tolley's the only one in town that this would affect. Is that correct, or did I misunderstand that at the night of the hearing?
That is what we were
All right,
told.
so we're doing one zoning amendment for one person. And if we can take care of Mr. Tolley's concerns by the 28th situation, if we could extend that, maybe make it a little more permanent, rather than maybe do something with an agreement, with a report requirement or something, in my opinion, way preferable than changing zoning, particularly when you start talking about signage. If someone next to me was selling fish and had a big sign outside, I would not be happy about it. So I think it's, as a public policy, I think it's dangerous. I don't think it's necessary if we can find an alternative. And the town seemed to have done a good job with that 28 agreement. If that can be extended, if there's somehow that can be memorialized, that might be the solution.
It was just a use of town-owned land.
Right.
Application, which anybody can do. It's on the Shea Lenore property, which we don't know whether that might be something the town decides to sell in a couple of years. So it's not necessarily a case where, like, where the farmer's market is. That's
a different.
That's land bank that will never be sold. That's part of the town's inventory of land for forever.
Right. But he even said he was only going to be doing this for a few more years. So that may be, again, it may be a solution. I think it's a preferable solution than changing zoning. This almost looks like spot zoning in a way, because it is for one person, for one particular problem, when I think there may be another solution that is easier to implement and does not set a precedent. I'm concerned about the precedent-setting nature. People are going to come forward and say, I want to do this, and it's not allowed. You let Mr. Tolley do it, why can't I do it? So that's my opinion of.
Thank you.
That's,
There we go. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I think what's important for the agenda is that we just focus on what Kathy has kind of prepared for us going forward. And the background from the other attorneys is important for us to have, but what's in front of us for consideration tonight is this draft number one, and your comments are
noted.
are well noted by Kathy. Other members of the board?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr.
The
Solberg.
only thing I might suggest is that it does say have personally caught, but maybe personally caught by the homeowner. I mean, there was language in here from one of the attorneys that said something similar to that.
Yes, let me see what that says.
Right, so that's
One's
related
home.
to,
Freshly caught seafood from one's home. That was down under the accessory use
personally caught right
paragraph,
here.
but
What they have sell what they have personally caught or harvested.
they caught it and they live there.
Right.
And they sell it there. That's, yeah, okay.
otherwise you could have a lot of fishermen just going to one place.
I wouldn't say homeowner, because it might be a tenant. So the resident of the home.
Sure.
Yeah. Are any other comments from the board? I
Madam
have,
Chair, may I ask a question?
yes, Mr. Rubenstein.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. I forget sometimes, because you're not sitting next to me, that,
It's
people are
okay.
up there on the big screen.
It's all right. It's only for this very special times of year when I can't physically be there, and I wish I could be. I mean, Ms. Britta brought up some really good points. Is it possible, given the reasonable question about how things are going, is it possible that Mr. Tolley or Mr. Tolley's representatives are actually on the call, and are you interested at this point in the process in hearing from them? Because that may clear up any confusion or doubt about how things are going, which could lead to other conversations either tonight or in the future.
There are 3 people with their hands up, so very good point, Will.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And then after they speak, I would love the chance, depending on how that goes, to circle back to a couple things, but perhaps I won't need to after we hear what we hear. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Rubenstein. So who have we got, Kath? I can't, got some hands up.
Jonathan, Polly, I think the lawyer.
I was just unmuted.
Oh,
Okay.
Harry, welcome, Mr. Bargill.
Hi, thank you all for inviting my participation. Yes, I can speak a little bit about John's current situation, and I'd like to make a couple of comments about the preceding discussion. So, John is able to sell lobsters in his temporary location. The concern, as I think one member already mentioned, is that this is a temporary location. It's not where he wants to be operating, and it could be pulled out from under him at any given time because it's not his property and it's the property of the government. So it's not even as though he has an agreement with a private landlord. He's in a situation with little to no leverage, and so the idea would be for him to be able to continue operating as his home as he's done for decades. On the question of fresh, John typically, if not exclusively, sells live lobster. There's nothing more fresh than that. And he has a track record of decades of sales without any foodborne illness or anything like that. So, I understand and appreciate the concern about food safety, but I just don't think it's something that's present here. So ultimately, John would like to be able to return to sale on his property. It's as fresh as it gets. He would be selling what he catches, what he is personally on the vessel for, which was some of the language that I suggested in my proposal, that it be isolated to people who not only harvest the fish, but who are on the vessel. So there's no doubt about whether you're the participant who's catching it. But ultimately, I think, this is also an opportunity for this body to be more welcoming and adaptive when it comes to home-based businesses. I don't think we're opening the door here, or we're suggesting that you open the door here for rampant home-based business use, but I think it would be a rather modest modification to allow people to operate small businesses from their homes if they're exclusively conducted within the home and don't create nuisances for their neighbors. I would add a word of caution about signage. The U.S. Supreme Court has been pretty clear that to the extent that somebody is able to put a sign in their yard of certain dimensions, the government can't really regulate what that sign can say. And so I would just suggest to this body, before it pushes anything over to the city council, that it checks see what John might be able to put in his front yard as a political sign, for example, and just make sure that the signage restrictions are consistent with what he might be able to say on any other topic.
Thank you, Mr. Bargill. Any questions from the board? I have one. I just want to make sure I understood when you mentioned a participant on the vessel.
Yeah.
So Mr. Tolley has two friends on the vessel, and they catch lobsters. Is your suggestion that they can sell lobsters from their home?
I don't think so, and I don't think that's the way that either our proposed language or this body's proposed footnote would operate. I think what it would mean would be two things. You have to be the homeowner, and you have to be the person who is on the vessel. So, I think between those two things, that is pretty limiting.
So your recommendation is that the person be the homeowner and the vessel owner as well?
You could, if you want to be more precise, to limit it even more, I guess, to address your concern, you could say the owner, yes, of the vessel, rather than just present on the vessel.
Okay. And so therefore, other participants fishing on the vessel wouldn't have the same privileges, so to speak, as the owner of the vessel and owner of the home.
That's right. I think that would be unnecessarily narrow. I'm not aware of. I don't think it is especially likely that there's going to be an explosion of at-home lobster sales in Yarmouth. But if that were what this body wanted to do, I think that is one way to narrow it exclusively. I don't think that this is an instance of spot zoning, but I do think that that is one way to address the specific problem. But speaking in more general and broad terms, I think also is going to address this while also allowing people to do other harmless, historically recognized things from their homes.
I appreciate that. Thanks for the clarification.
Yep.
Any other questions for Mr. Bargill?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
this is Jim Saban,
Oh, Jim Saban.
Oh, I
checking
didn't hear
in.
you say present.
I did say present, but I must have been muted.
Oh, I'm
Here I
sorry.
am.
Welcome. I hope you're feeling okay.
No, I'm not.
Oh,
But anyway, I'm pretty comfortable with the comments that have just been made, and the fact that a special permit would be required. probably gives a little bit more comfort to those that are concerned with what their neighbors are doing. And I appreciate that we've had some feedback from Mr. Tolley's attorneys, and I'm assuming Mr. Tolley has participated in that conversation with them. So I'm pretty comfortable with the changes that Kathy has brought forward.
Thank you. And thanks for zooming in. We appreciate it, calling in. Mr. Rubenstein, do you have any comments?
Madam Chair, there's one
Yes,
more.
Madam Chair. I just wanted to mention that I agree. I understand where Ms. Britt is coming from about some of the health department concerns, but I think if I saw this correctly, the wording does say in note 7 shall be in compliance with all applicable local, state, and federal regulations. So I feel like that should cover us there, and I hopefully would also make those town departments happy as well. And I agree with Mr. Saban. In general, I'm comfortable in the direction where this is headed. Can you just remind the group where we are in the timetable and when a possible public hearing would be? An official public hearing on these, or I guess would be all the amendments at the same time.
Yes.
Kathy?
I would think that we would have our public hearing sometime in September in preparation for what is tentatively the November 17th. It may get pushed a little bit. I think the local comprehensive plan is we're gonna have to decide on that public hearing first to make sure that that's an issue resolved, and then we can have, I don't want to do the two together. I'd like to have two separate meetings. So sometime probably mid-September or as late as early October. But if we get resolved and we come to a comfortable, that would be great. We can do it
Right,
early.
that's the reason why I asked, because we're now because by the time we do have our actual hearing on the amendments, the official public hearing, we'll have another couple of months worth of data and some feedback from maybe Mr. Bargle and Mr. Tolley himself. And we'll just know a lot more in a couple of months. But I do feel like we've got a really good platform to stand on moving forward. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Rubenstein.
Is there someone else?
One more hand up.
One more.
One more? Yeah.
Jonathan.
Jonathan.
Hi, Jonathan Poloni here.
Thank you, Mr. Poloni.
I just wanted to make a few comments as well. It might be rehashing some things that have already been said, but I'll just kind of go through some of the things that came up for me. I think the first thing that I want to say is just to reemphasize that what you're changing the zoning bylaw to do is to provide for a special permit hearing. And so I think there is a process built in there that really addresses a lot of the questions that I hear coming up in terms of just giving the zoning board or the planning board, whoever the special permit granting authority might be, the ability to check who is applying for this permit, what their operation is going to be, how it's going to be conducted, what it's going to be for. That you have that opportunity to vet all of that and set any necessary conditions that you want to set. And I think that is why this is exactly not spot zoning. It does potentially affect only one person. I think we are all kind of aware that John Tolley may be the only person who is actually doing this kind of operation. But because it's broadly applicable, because you're modifying the zoning for pretty much every zoning district, except for the B1 and B2, where it's already allowed, it's not just affecting John Tolley's property. So that's also kind of a built-in limitation, because practically speaking, nobody's jumping at the gun to try and go out and sell lobsters or fish from their home. It's probably unlikely that anybody really wants to do that, because it's not a money-making venture. John's just been doing this as his livelihood for as long as he has, and he would like to continue doing that. So in terms of how things are going at the where he's selling fish right now, I know John is there right now selling lobsters. It seems to be going pretty well, but he would obviously prefer to be doing it at his house. That's where he has everything set up. And it's much more convenient for him to just operate from his house. And as you know, it's never been a problem in the neighborhood for anyone for that to be there. So, I mean, right now he has to cart things down in coolers and bring them to this other location in order to sell them there. I think it's certainly added work for him to do that, but he's certainly happy that he's been able to have that opportunity. So I think just in terms of the language for footnote 7, I think you have everything that you need in there. It might even go overboard a little bit where, with the language where it's saying seafood has to be whole and not prepared or processed. I think a lot of that is already covered by state law, if not local and federal regulations. So I think keeping things simple is sometimes better. And like I said, you have this special permit regime built into this process that really covers a lot. So you don't need to get super into the weeds about whether this is who's on the boat and whether they're going to be able to sell fish, because you're going to have already gone through that process before you grant the special permit. One thing I did want to touch on, though, that I think is important is the signage. And I will keep it brief, but just practically speaking, if you have somebody like John selling from his home, he obviously needs to let people know that he's there. And so having a sign on his property, I don't think is a problem. It's a pretty small sign. It could even just be one of those campaign signs that anybody can stick on their property just to let people know that that's where it is. But I would ask you to consider some kind of process for allowing an off-premises sign to be put out so that people know where to go. And you see that, for example, with the farmer's market, there's lots of signs around so that people know this is the day for the farmer's market. It's happening at this time. This is where you go. It lets people know, go to the farmer's market. And so for the same reason, it would be helpful to have signs to guide people that there are lobsters for sale here. Come this way and you can buy a lobster. I think where, again, this is a special permit process, that there are conditions that can go into it through the special permit process. I mean, you could put language into footnote 7, limiting how many off-premises signs there would be allowed, or what size would be allowed, or you could just have that as part of the special permit process itself. But I would just ask for some consideration around that, because obviously, if you're running a business, you need to let people know that you're open for business. And I think everything else, really makes sense. I really appreciate the attention that you've put into this and trying to craft something. I think this really is significant. It certainly helps John do what he wants to continue doing. And I think he'll probably continue doing what he's doing until he retires. I can't say when that will be. But the work that you're putting into this is definitely appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Poloni. Any questions for Mr. Poloni? Okay. Any other questions from the board? A couple of things. I'm feeling like we want to move this forward, and I want to try to have an amendment that is clean and simple. And we appreciate Mr. Poloni's comments, but I feel it necessary for the board to have a brief discussion about off-premises signs now and make a determination now about how we feel about them. So Mr. Poloni has asked that there be some change to Note 7 that would include some arbitrary number of off-premises signs for home occupation use. And I'd like to get the sense of the board as to whether or not we want to even consider having any kind of language in Note 7 with regard to that. So I'd like to start with Mr. Smith, if I may.
Sure. Madam Chair, just a little clarification, just irregardless to why we're here and what we're talking about, this zoning change, didn't this whole issue truly start from a signage issue?
Yes, it did.
I think that right there spells a lot of it out, right said there.
Mr. Slovak?
I would not be in favor of off-premise signs language in this bylaw.
Ms. Britta?
Definitely not in favor.
Ms. Gegwin?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. And myself, I think we should not consider some attempted language on this. I'm a seamstress, and I live at.
Madam Chair?
I'm going to come back to you, Will. I haven't forgotten about you.
Oh, this is Jay.
And I want to put up signs on Station Ave. I don't mean to belittle this, but that's what it would come to, I think, in some ways. And so that's why off-premises signs, whether they're political or not, political size, I think is a step, I think, just a little bit too far for us. Mr. Rubenstein.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. That was actually Mr. Sabin that interrupted you, just for the record.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. We're friends.
voices are the
We're
same.
friends, so he won't mind that I'm calling him out. I'm a little bit torn, but I would imagine if we don't include off-premises signage language in here, would it still be possible for Mr. Tolley in this case to ask for one at his special permit hearing with the Zoning Board of Appeals?
Kathy?
I don't think so. I think it would be a variance, but yeah, it would be
Well, I
something,
guess what
unless
I'm
you
saying is,
specifically
we're not-
say it's open to special permit authorization, it would be viewed as a variance if it doesn't meet the off-premises sign section of 303.
Got it. And that's why I'm bringing it up, because as you know, our friends in the Zoning Board of Appeals deal with signage all the time. Whereas this body, I don't believe, often does, except in these kinds of cases. So part of me feels like if we have the process in place through the Zoning Board of Appeals, I wouldn't want to eliminate the possibility of that conversation with the Zoning Board of Appeals by whatever we do with our own amendment. Am I making any sense here?
You are, but it would be a request for a variance because there's no language.
Authorized.
There is
Right, so
absent,
in
the
that case-
language is absent in the bylaw, so therefore you're asking for a variance, not a special permit.
Okay, so in that case, Mr. Tolley could still ask for an off-premises sign through the process that's already written into the bylaw. It just won't be, the permission for the sign won't be in the bylaw itself.
Mr. Tolley can ask for whatever he wants.
Right.
For the Zoning Board of
Okay, it just doesn't
Appeals.
have to be written into the actual note.
No,
No, which is
Right,
what we
so-
don't,
we don't want to.
No, I get it. I've heard everybody, and I'm just trying to talk it out loud because this is one of the first times, and I've been on the board almost 5 years, where we've gotten deep into signs. It just hasn't
Yeah,
happened
no,
too much.
a good point, a good point. Mr. Saban.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm kind of if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. And if we're not enforcing realtor signs at the end of the street that says open house 5 blocks away, or we're allowing the farmers market to put signs out directing people from Forest Road all the way over to Old Main Street, then I'm having a hard time justifying preventing someone such as Mr. Tolley from being able to do something similar. So I think that's the rub I have on it, is that if we're allowing other people to do it, how can we tell him he can't?
We're not.
And
Thank you, Mr. Saban. I'd like to recognize our building commissioner, Mark Grills, and he would like to respond to this issue about signing.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Mark Grills, Building Commissioner. The farmers market is allowed to have signs in accordance with the Board of Selectmen's sign policy for off-premise signs, and those are for nonprofits. So they can apply through my office and indicate where they're going to put their signs, and then that gets approved through the town administrator's office. The real estate signs are allowed in accordance with our bylaw in the temporary sign section specifically. So there's a few signs that are allowed. Real estate signs are one of them.
Thank you.
And are the real estate signs the ones that are actually on the property?
No.
No, they can be off.
They're
property.
off-premise temporary signs.
They are allowed.
They are allowed. Yes, section 303.4.1.4.1, off-premise real estate signs. Open house signs may be displayed from 10 to 4 on Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays. All such signs must be placed on private property with permission of the owner. Only 2 such signs will be allowed to be displayed for any property for sale or lease. Only 1 such sign will be allowed to be displayed on any one lot. Such signs will not exceed 6 square feet in area. No permit or fee is required.
Thank you, Mr. Grills. Thanks for the clarification. Okay.
Okay.
I do think we have a sense from the board about off-premises signs that we will not be, at this point, amend, in our draft 2, when we get there, including any provision for off-premise signs at this point. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning, this goes through a process, and we will have a public hearing, and we'll have probably another meeting on this. And as we hear the voices of the public, that may change. We may be influenced to adjust that, but as of right now, the way we're interpreting our zoning bylaw seems to be one where off-premise signs for home occupations, selling lobsters, would be something that we're not going to consider right now. Any other comments or questions on this? I wanted to know if any members of the public were here who wanted to talk about that, or...
Ari has his hand up.
Oh, okay. Ari?
Hi, thank you
Sorry,
again for
Mr. Bargle.
recognizing me.
Yep.
Thank you again. I will say this discussion comes up a lot in my experience. A lot of towns and localities nationwide have sign codes that are, frankly, not quite up to date with what the U.S. Supreme Court has said about on-premises and off-premises signage and commercial signage generally. I think it's probably wise to not include a specific signage provision or language in the footnote, because I think what that would mean is that it would leave John subject to the more general off-premises sign code that the town has. Again, the big word of caution here is drawing distinctions between whether they're on-premises or off-premises, drawing distinctions between some signs and others. The general rule of thumb when you're crafting these sign codes, which we help localities with all the time, and we have model language that I'm happy to send over. But the general rule of thumb is that if you have to read the sign to determine whether it is or is not permissible, that is probably an unconstitutional signage ordinance. Generally speaking, localities can regulate, size parameters, where you can put them and whatnot. But an ordinance or system of ordinances that would, for example, allow you to advertise an open house but not the sale of lobster, or one type of business but not another, is very likely unconstitutional under the First Amendment. And I'm happy to supply some helpful language to you all if you think that would be helpful as you continue to work on this.
Well, we appreciate your comments, Mr. Bartle. We've lived with our signage provisions in the zoning bylaw for a long time, and we have not run into this issue in the past, but we appreciate your opinion on this. Again, any other members of the public who would like to speak on this? Any members here?
Hi, just Jonathan Poloni. I'm going to
Mr.
make
Poloni,
one last
sure.
brief
Yep.
comment. Thank you, Madam Chair. So I wanted to clarify, I think from Will's comment, just wanted to clarify something about kind of the practicality of this. And the reason why I think it could be helpful to include some language in footnote 7 to allow the special permit process to include an evaluation of off-premises signs. I've indicated that for business, it may be helpful to have an off-premises sign. If you disagree with that, that's totally fine. But I just want to be clear that relying on someone to apply for a variance is going to be very hard to get. In fact, that was the process that John went through at the very beginning to try and legalize his operation. And as you know, it was denied. So variances are by definition very hard to get. And to actually regulate it, it would make sense to have that in the special permit process. And in order to do that, put it into footnote 7 specifically, just to say any evaluation of off-premises signs shall be done through the special permit process. It could be that general. But just to create that process like Bill was talking about, so that the zoning board could actually evaluate it and put conditions on it however they see fit. And you don't have to grant special permits either. So it's not that just because you can apply for one that the zoning board has to grant you an off-premises sign. But they would be able to evaluate the characteristics, the operation, and whether or not it's going to be a detriment. So I will just put that out there, and happy to see how this process unfolds. Thank you.
Again, Mr. Poloni, we appreciate your opinion on this. The town of Yarmouth has zoning bylaws that have been in existence for a while, and off-premises signage, with the exception of a couple of noted particular commercial uses, particularly real estate, is not something the town apparently has been fond of, and our zoning bylaw reflects that. And I really would like not to have this small issue that we're trying to help literally a person, and hopefully there may be other lobstermen in town, figure out how we might be able to put forward to the town meeting a proposal so that he may continue his work. If you want to, if you and your client want to muck it up, with signage, it will definitely not go anywhere. So I would recommend we keep it clean and simple. It's about home occupation and use of the property for selling lobsters. That's where we are. And if the signage issue, which is what got, as Mr. Smith mentioned, which is what unfortunately triggered this, that the signage on 28 was not allowed, I would prefer not to cloud this issue and make it more difficult for us to do our job to try to help Mr. Tolley by including any language with regard to off-premises signage. And I think you've heard most of the members of the board, Mr. Saban, I think, might disagree a little bit, but I think most members of the board think that this should not be an issue connected to this particular amendment. And I hope members of the board are okay with what I just said.
Well said.
Mr. Rubenstein, you're okay?
I'm okay in the sense that I also think Mr. Poloni has a point, but I also, I don't, I'm struggling because I'm a business owner myself, and I'm trying to imagine running a business and not having some of the very basic blocking and tackling that I would want to be able to have in order to run that business. But also I understand why there's very few exceptions, as Mr. Grill's already discussed, in our zoning bylaw for off-premises signs. So I guess what I'm saying, Madam Chair, is I'm squarely stuck in the middle, but I also recognize that I'm in the minority when it comes to the overall sentiment of the board. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Madam Chair, Jim Saban.
Yeah, Mr. Saban?
Never mind what Will said.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so I think we've reviewed this. We good, Kath, on this one?
Yes, it sounds like I will look into adding language about owner of the vessel and by resident of the property.
Are there, on other home occupations, can a tenant be a seamstress? And Mr. Grills, I can see you nodding. So you don't need to own the property to
Right,
have
I don't
a
want it to
home
be limited to
occupation.
the homeowner, or maybe you do, but I don't think you do. You want it to be the resident, the person who's
Yeah,
living there.
who's living there.
That's their
Okay.
residence, and they're living there
That's
lawfully.
fine.
And
They don't
all
have
of
to be
that.
on the deed.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Okay, all right.
So I can give that a try for next
Okay,
time.
great. Any other comments for Kath? Okay. Let's go on to the next one, which is boat storage. Kathy, you want to walk us through a little bit on that?
Find the language. We've had a lot of,
And we appreciate, again, Mr. Grills is here to help us with this.
yes, he's definitely the expert in the bylaw. He's in it every single day. We've had a lot of talks about on-site boat storage since 2018, actually. I tried to do a little bit of a summary here of the draft article that went before we'd mentioned this on May 7th. It's in the memo. And then also talking about what Mark had originally discussed, which was on a paved surface, on a registered trailer, and then trying to kind of combine that with some of the comments that I had heard at the May 7th meeting with regard to length of the boat on a trailer, and whether we wanted to keep it on some type of hardened surface or the driveway. It seems like, in talking to Mark, that the most of the people are doing it, parking it in their driveway. Are parking it in their driveway. So I proposed some language here, multiple options. One of them is just to include a length, and arbitrarily, Mark and I were looking online and came up with 28 feet. It's highlighted in yellow for obvious discussion purposes. We did add the registered trailer, and then we did add back in the driveway up. Joanne had a very interesting comment when we talked today about reading this. She's under the impression that you still couldn't store at any time a boat behind the front face of your building. And I don't think that's the case. You could do that, but this is the exception to also allow for something in addition. So I think maybe we might want to do a little clarification on that. So it says if camping or recreational equipment, the definition of recreational equipment includes boats, but maybe we want to specifically include boats so people understand. You can always continue to do what you're doing today, is storing your boat behind the front face, and you can do it all year long. This is just saying, we want to provide another option for people as a coastal community to have their boat.
Could I ask clarification?
Yeah, sure.
Does that mean 2 boats could be stored on one lot? One in back and then one in the,
Yes.
That's how
okay,
I
so
interpret
we're expanding by 100% the opportunity to park a boat in a residential neighborhood.
Well, that's,
Right now they can do, but this would expand it by, they could do 2, correct, Mark? Under this, if we,
Mr. Grills?
yeah, are you reading, because that's how I'm reading it. Do you have the right?
Let's get a clarification here. We're looking at on page, what have we got? Page 2 of 3, the draft 2019 article, and Kathy has put in italicized language, a change there. So
This is what I'm looking at. Are we looking at the same thing?
go to the actual amendment. which is up in
Memo.
front. It's in the
No,
front.
that's
Keep
that's
going.
boats.
Keep going. It's like page 2, right here. Because I was confused on this as well. The language in that number 2, under boat storage, the draft article that we looked at in 2019, the language that existed was the regular language, and then we added italicized language, and it did not pass the Board of Selectmen. So that's what we went forward with in 2019, that total paragraph.
Okay.
So that if you had a boat, I believe it was only one boat on the property, but Mark, I would appreciate your comments on this.
Madam Chair, there are people that own several boats, and they're, right now, if they're parked behind the front line of the house, if they have one in the backyard and one on each side, we don't care as long as they're registered to them. If they're registered to other people, then it looks like a boat storage yard, and, then we might write a violation. But today's bylaw, section 401, I just lost it, I had it, says nothing about the number of boats you can store, but what the additional language says that if you also have a boat that you want to store in your driveway, you can store that boat in the driveway as long as all the other boats comply with the bylaw, meaning behind the front line of the property.
So you could store more than one on.
Yeah, you can today.
As long as they're registered to you.
Today, it's in back, it's got to be.
It's behind the front line.
non-visible. The new would allow multiple boats.
allow
but
one boat in the
back
driveway.
And one in, okay.
Correct.
So you could actually, if you could actually have, if you have a big house, you could have 2 in back and 1 in the driveway. So you would basically have 3.
Yeah, the majority of these are small properties that they don't
Some
have a
them
lot
are
of room.
large,
They
but I just
can't
wanna-
cut down the trees
but
beside
that would
their
be
house.
allowed. That would be, if the 2 votes, as you say, are in back of the, and you could put, this would allow them to put a 3rd one in the driveway.
Correct.
Okay. Enough said.
Good clarification.
The question would be with registered, it doesn't say to whom it needs to be
Yeah.
registered. It could be his buddy that lives in,
Which happens frequently. I'm sure Mark is aware of that.
that right, so I think there could be
It's not
some-
very often that we get multiple boats on a property, but, when we do, we ask for the
My neighborhood,
registration.
drive through my neighborhood.
Yeah,
What
it's
I-
too busy.
What I'd like to do, Kathy, I think I jumped ahead of you here. Can you just run through quickly your memo, and you kind of bring us back to the future, bring us back to the past, rather, and then reminding us where Mr. Grills was with us when we were trying to get the draft article in 2019. And now you've got a couple of options for us,
Right.
starting on page 2 of 3 and 3 of 3.
Yes. Yeah, so the first one is simple, adding the addition and including the length and the registered trailer and identifying it in the driveway. I know that when we were talking about accessory apartments, we were concerned that people would be parking it in the grass on the front of their house and all of those types of things. And the second option came out of the comments that we received from the select board back in 2019, where they were concerned that they would have all year long, you'd have a storage of a shrink-wrapped boat in someone's driveway, and that what did that look like? So this second one is basically saying you can have your boat in the driveway only from April 1st to November 1st. That still means you can store it in the winter or whatever, in the back of behind the front face of your building. But this is just saying that when you're using your boat all the time, in and out, in and out, in and out, during the active boating season, you can have it in your driveway.
What does adequate on-site parking there mean? How are we going to determine what's adequate?
If the people are parking on the road, then they don't have adequate parking on their property.
And driveway, does it need to be paved? I'm interested in the second one here where it limits it to the seasonal use, but does in the driveway, does it need to be paved? There was a lot of.
Your call.
What'd you say, Mark?
That's our,
Your call,
Oh,
whether or not it's
okay.
paved.
So we're silent on that at this point.
the way it's written.
Yeah.
So paved means asphalt,
It could be concrete, but.
crushed, could be concrete, could it be crushed stone?
Could be a prepared surface, not your lawn, so prepared surface, crushed gravel, anything like that. But I put something in writing back whenever I wrote that, just to give something to start with,
Yeah.
so.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Saban?
good evening again. Just a couple of quick comments. I don't think we need to concern ourselves about, property owners starting to start their own little marinas. The average person probably has a 27-foot boat and maybe a dinghy to service that. They don't have 3 27-foot boats. We're not Newport, Rhode Island. We're Yarmouth. Most people can't afford that many boats, so it's not likely that we're going to have an issue of over parking of boats. The second thing is with regards to the issue of parking in the driveway or a hard surface. Often, I think, if you drive through the community, you'll see that somebody may have their boat parked in their driveway in front of their garage, but have adequate space next to that where they may park it in the winter months when they're not using it. So I think, keeping in mind that there are alternatives to being, making somebody pour a new driveway just to park that second vehicle might be a little bit onerous. And, as long as there are other options from putting the vehicle or the boat, vehicle meaning recreational vehicle, in front of and restricting access to the home, I don't think we need to start saying it has to have a paved parking spot or anything like that. That's my opinion.
Yeah, so, Mr. Saban, if I may ask, with regard to the two draft options that Kathy has written, what changes are you suggesting there?
Let me get it back in front of me if you bear with me one quick second. Somehow I've gone to seafood. I don't want to be a seafood. So I don't think we need to restrict seasonal. I mean, most people, keep in mind we no longer have, dry dock marine for people to park their boats. So, if we start saying to people, you can't park a boat in your yard in the winter months, where are we going to let them put them?
That's the next
so
question.
That's a huge issue. There's probably 50, 60 boats that got parked at dry dock that will now have to find new homes.
40.
Many of them are Yarmouth residents. So if we start restricting them from putting them in their yards in the winter months, we're causing chaos in the boating community.
There's a new boat place going into dry dock, so they're going to be reopening.
Right.
Okay, I'm not aware of that. That's good then, but...
Madam Chair, may I?
Yes, Mr. Grills.
I guess where this starts is that the majority of people can put their boat or their RV beside their houses. They just weren't aware of the bylaw. So when we notify them, they just move it. There are some instances with small properties, people have small properties, or where their house is located on the property, they just can't fit the boat in there without encroaching on their neighbor's property. So this doesn't affect a huge number of people in town that can't place the boats there, but it does affect some. So it's not like everywhere in town, everybody needs to store their boat, but it gives them an option to do that. Sometimes, surprisingly enough, people can't back their boats up. So they have a circular driveway, and they drive into the circular driveway, and they can't back it up beside their house. They'd probably ruin their boat. So, we've run into instances where they put in a circular driveway so they could drive their boat straight through the driveway. I feel for the person, but, some backup lessons might be in order. But, these are just a couple of instances that we've had. But the majority of people do move their boats. So.
Comments from the board and questions for Mark and or Kathy?
I'm in favor of the seasonal restriction. I think that does or will help when eliminate the shrink wrappage, the having something like that sit year-round shrink wrapped, because some will out in your front buffer area in that driveway, so you can't see down the end of your street. You walk out of your house.
Fire trucks can't
Or
get
fire,
by.
whatever, I think you need, if somebody truly is a boater and they're gonna be using it, then it should be maybe limited to seasonal.
But, it can be shrink wrapped if it follows what's existing, meaning behind the front line of the house.
Right.
That's right.
And so even if the house is 10 feet off the street, they can still have a shrink wrap boat 10 feet off the street,
Beside their house, yes.
as long as they're behind, okay. Okay. Susan, Ms. Britta?
The boats and the trailers, what about language that says it must be owned by the people that own the house? Because as you know, many people will rent out a spot on their driveway to let someone else park their boat there.
I'm not aware of that, but I'm sure it's possible.
It happens all the time. Should we add language, or would you recommend that we add language that said all boats on premises have got to be owned by the owner of the house? Or somehow have an ownership
Then you get
provision?
back to the
Property.
resident.
Pardon me?
Then you get back to people who might be renting.
Yeah,
The resident
occupant
of
of
the
the
property would
dwelling.
solve that.
To occupant of the dwelling, same thing. So it covers everybody.
So someone could rent a house all summer, store 2 boats on the property, one regular and then a second one under this, and the second one in the driveway could be rented to someone that lives in Plymouth.
Not unless they live there,
But how are you going to monitor
occupant of
that?
the dwelling,
Yeah, but how are you going to monitor that?
when somebody complains.
Can you check registration mark of a boat?
Call DNR, they'll do it for me.
Okay.
But the only way we would know something like that comes up,
We have to report
Mr. Grills, is a neighbor calls in
For a
and says.
report,
Yeah.
correct.
And so that's how it works.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, Mr.
Jim-
Smith.
Jim has his hand up again. I'm in favor, just real quick, I'm in favor of the seasonal draft.
Seasonal, second, okay.
I also like the seasonal limit.
Mr. Rubenstein?
I don't know. I'm not trying to be the contrarian tonight, but I as someone who doesn't have a boat, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of someone who does, and for the town to limit my ability to store my boat. I don't know. I guess we'll hear more at the hearing if we do put this proposed language in for the seasonal restriction. We'll probably hear loud and clear one way or the other about whether this is a good thing or not. So I guess I'm going to defer until we have our public hearing. And also, I would like to, though, ask just real quickly of Mr. Grills what his thought is on the seasonal restriction and its enforcement issues, if any. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Grills?
The people that store their boat, and they're in Florida, they have a hard time moving their boat from Florida, so we find a lot of those that they stored their boat in the improper place, and they have to find someone to move the boat for them, so it doesn't matter to me either way, however you want to do this, but again, a lot of these just come through complaint.
Okay.
And the people, they can still store their boat. to Will's, what the point Will's making, that we're not telling them they can't store the boat, it just has to be behind the house in the middle of winter, not shrink wrapped
In
up
fact,
in your front setback.
we're expanding their ability to store boats.
Because there are no
No,
setbacks.
that is all true, Peter, and I guess we'll hear definitively when we have our public hearing. You know, if this is actually a big deal and I'm overthinking it. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll.
Mr. Saban?
Again, what Will said, I think when we get to the point of having this discussion with the community at large, that'll be something that'll be vetted out. I personally don't see an issue with having a vehicle or a boat shrink wrapped for a few months during the winter months, particularly if there's no other alternatives for people. My second question is one of which, how does the corner lot apply? Coming into mind, there's a particular sailboat that's been shrink wrapped over off of Wood Road and Forest Road that's been shrink wrapped for years. And I'm trying to decide, where does the front lot line apply for something like that? Is it the street address or is it the side? How do you decide what's the front?
The front is defined in the zoning bylaw in section 401. The rear or the front line of the building, it doesn't define a lot. It's the front line of the building. So if you have a corner lot and you place it on the side of the building, even though it may be a front, it's still behind the front line of the building. That's how it's always been interpreted through my office.
Got it. Just for general purpose, and that clearly conforms to, that particular boat that I'm referring to conforms to what you're indicating. But I was just kind of wondering where you picked that front lot line. But again, I think we'll just have to wait till we have more comment from the public with regards to shrink wrapping your boats over the winter. That's all.
Any other comments from Deirdre? Anything? Susan? Okay.
Can I just ask one final question? This is sort of a retro question. Remind me again why we are doing this. Was this the incidence of the gentleman that had the circular driveway? And
No.
Why are we contemplating this? What was the issue that we were trying to solve? I forget what brought this to our attention.
Madam Chair, if
Yes, Mr.
I
Smith.
believe there was issues with people that didn't have the room on a smaller lot to store their boat behind their house. That's where I believe this issue came up
Yeah.
from.
And they wanted to be able to store it in the driveway.
That is correct.
Okay.
And we had wanted to move forward with this before.
Right.
And we had received, public approval on it, and the Board of Selectmen at the time had a different opinion. I've got a couple of questions. With all due respect, I am a boat owner, as is Mr. Saban, I know. A couple of things. One, my boat is stored not on a trailer, because I don't own a trailer. It's on blocks. And so Ship Shops comes in and puts it on jacks and shrink wraps it. It's all set in my driveway behind the house. Limiting it to, so that, under the current bylaw, I'm fine. Should I have a need to put it in a different place, and it's not behind the front of my house, why would we want to limit it to being on a trailer? Blocks are, there's actually.
Because it's mobile, and if you have it on a trailer, it's not going to be a really big boat. If they're on
Yep.
On stilts, they're usually larger boats. And so I was trying to get it to this board and eventually to town meeting, something that could be, easily voted on. All right, we're not going to have a yacht parked out on my front lawn. We're looking at boats on trailers that can be easily relocated, and provided it's registered and the trailer is registered, because, we also have we've had a few complaints about junk boats. They're just junk. They just sit there, fill up with water, and they become mosquito breeders.
Yeah.
So, these are all things that we deal with on a regular basis.
I do have concerns, mine is just a little 18-footer,
Right?
and I don't own a trailer, and it's on jack stands.
Well, again, that's a discussion for you guys and
Yeah,
and
I mean,
something that
I'm
presents a
just saying,
town.
from my perspective, I think
Right.
having that additional restriction of being on a registered trailer might not necessarily be necessary, because there are all sorts of limitations as to how big a boat you can have in the first place to park in your driveway. You're not going to have a 40-foot Viking in your driveway, but maybe some people do. Not me. And the other question I had was regard to the length. Right now, there is no restriction on length, as long as you are behind the front line of your property. And I'm wondering why we want to have a number there, 28 feet.
The thought process was that a smaller boat could be towed by a personal vehicle, a pickup truck. You wouldn't have to call a semi in to relocate your, 40-foot vessel. And that was the thought behind that. You can have no number there, but, I just need language in the bylaw to address this. That's
Yeah,
all
for
I'm
you
looking
to-
for.
for you to
To me,
enforce.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I know, Mark, I know.
I'm sure.
Yes, Mr.
I
Slovak.
think when you get to the Viking and the 40 and the 45 foot, your boat is now 20 feet tall, or 25 feet tall. I mean,
Or
my
even
neighbor has
probably more
one
than that.
that rises well above the top of my fence and can block the sun during the winter at some time. So you put that now in a driveway out front, and that's quite a sight,
Yeah.
I think. So
No,
I think
a good point. You're absolutely right. By the time
Madam
you
Chair?
take, yeah, Mr. Saban?
Might I weigh in again, please?
Yes, please.
I don't have so much of an issue with length. I will speak from my own personal experience of having a simple 27-foot Catalina sailboat that does not go on a trailer, that must be moved by a moving company. Dry Dock would pick it up every year and put it on stanchions in my yard, because that's the way you store a 27-foot sailboat and not on a trailer. So by requiring trailers, similar boats to that 28, and if you look around in the fleets, they're typically 30 feet or less for sailboats. But sailboats are not typically transported on trailers. So I think that's something we need to take a serious look at, because if we restrict it to trailers, then you're restricting sailors because we don't use trailers.
I have to share with you, Mr. Saban, my own experience as well, as the owner of a 31-foot sailboat that was stored in my driveway, and it had to come in, by Dry Dock, and then it's on blocks and stanchions, and again, with Mr. Slovak's comment, I mean, when you get a sailboat, you're going to have a 5-foot keel or a 4-foot keel, then you're going to have the boat. You won't necessarily have the mast, but it's going to be big. I mean, sailboats in particular are not going to be. They're going to be different than a motorboat, and visually, I don't know how we can have an amendment that takes all of that into consideration, but we'll hear from the public and we'll see what they say. But sailboat storage and motorboat storage are, I think, two different looks.
Do we have any
I
idea?
think we also need to have a discussion with regards to length. I think that's one, if I understand Peter's concern. And if you're putting a 42-foot yacht in your yard, then that's a little bit different than a 30-foot. So I think maybe a discussion with regards to length restrictions might be also appropriate.
Right. For anything in front of the front line of the house.
Correct.
Right, okay, yep. So if I'm hearing you, Jim, the 28-foot length for this exception is okay with you?
I think it's open for discussion. 28 is a good start. I don't
Okay.
know if 32 is a better number or 22 is a better number,
Yep.
but I think that's a good start.
Okay.
Or nothing, Madam Chair.
Or nothing.
Or
Or
nothing.
nothing.
No, I think there should be some restriction.
I mean, I think that's just the length as a whole is a discussion for us to figure out. I don't have a preference on length.
Well, I guess that's my question. Do we want to be neutral on this and leave it open and let the public tell us what they think an appropriate length is? Or do we want to have a starting point where we have a fixed number?
I think it's easy to fix number, because then they have something to comment on, as opposed to the lottery where you throw it out and get 53 answers. And then how do you figure out which is the right one?
Well,
Mr. Smith, yeah.
you're never going to figure out which is the right one. Whether we write the right number here that we believe and the public
whatever
thinks
comes
something completely different. I think we're getting hung up on semantics here. I think the bottom line is we know we need to have a public hearing. I think the direction we're going is the right direction, but I think we should hear what the public has to say.
Okay. And if I've heard everyone, Mr. Smith, option number 2 was one with the seasonal restriction. I just think that, again, I'm wondering if you would consider the registered trailer issue. I'd like to be silent on that if we could, but that's just where I'm going. I'm trying to get a sense of consensus to give Kathy something to walk away with.
Madam Chair, I don't have an issue at all with the registered trailer. I agree with you that I've owned several boats at a time and had boats on trailers and boats on blocks that I was working on. They were all behind the house. So I understand the issues here. My only issue with the seasonal portion of it was I do have a problem leaving a shrink wrap boat sitting in the front driveway all year long. So how we write it so that that boat is in use and being used and parked accessibly in the driveway, so it's a quick haul down to the dock. That's how I interpret this whole thing. How we write that, I think we have to mash a lot of stuff together to make it work. That was my only reason that I agree with Peter on the seasonal aspect. I trailered my boats all over Cape Cod, and when you're trying to maneuver boats around boats, it's a pain in the neck. And I'd be the first to say it. But I also tried to respect my neighbors too, and not have the boat sitting in the driveway all winter long, or for that matter, all summer long, shrink wrapped, because I used to shrink wrap them myself. So,
Yeah, okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
I guess I would say if you're going to talk with the restriction, I think the maximum length in the registered trailer is less important because it's exactly what Ken's saying. They're going to park it there because they're going to be using it all the time, so it's going to be movable. And I think, we talk about sailboats and all of those things. They can still do it behind the face of the building. Do you want a bunch of boats, like a big sailboat in the front? So we have something, so what are we trying to give the extra for? And I think it mostly is for trailered motorboats, for people who are going back and forth to the.
it's for people to enjoy their boat.
Right.
That's what it's for.
So Kathy, you're saying, I think was the point you were making, it should be registered to the homeowner or to the occupant.
To the occupant.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I think otherwise you're going to open yourself, this will increase somewhere along the line, the number of boats that are going to come into neighborhoods.
Yes.
It will. It'll make
could
it
double it.
easier. You can double it. Maybe someone should create an app where you can start renting your driveway out for boat storage. So,
Susan said that.
that exists for pools, so might as well exist for boats too. So, so I think it needs to be limited to the homeowner, registered to that occupant.
Want to go in
Ms. Britta, yep.
How does, given the discussion about size, how does Carl Lewis's, Lawson's memo fit? Do we have to be concerned about this gallon issue? It's, okay.
No, that's for the creation of boat storage
It's storage.
lots,
Okay.
for big boat storage places. In ADUs in particular, they have a hard time doing it, so.
Okay.
I wish there was, and I'm going on here, but I wish there was a way we could make this more likely to happen for somebody, for a developer, to be able to store boats. And I
It's
understand
actually,
where
our
B3
bylaw references 310 CMR, that law that he references. And that's a stormwater management law. It's out of our hands. So it's in the state's purview.
It's allowed by special permit in the B2 zoning district.
Right.
So the ones that exist in B3, I know Dry Dock was pre-existing non-conforming because it came over from Station Ave, so that existed for a long time. But how about down off of Corporation Road? Big Wave, Craig is down there. Is that all special permit?
Yes. Yeah, they went through the process.
All right, so it is possible, the special permit and the process they went through, and I think it was like 2004 or 5, is that still available to somebody else today?
Well, the process is still available, but I think the 310 CMR change was modified to make that more restrictive. So We went through this years ago on Corporation Road. There were a couple of lots down there that have boats on them that's not supposed to be there. They had to pave it. They had to collect all their stormwater. They had to have alarms. They had to have the service of staff member every day going out to the parking lot to make sure that there wasn't fuel, because the boats have to be stored full to meet fire department regulations. They want the boat stored 90% full, I think. So there's no fumes, because the fumes are more flammable than the fuel itself. So there's a lot of regulations when it comes to creating a boat storage lot
In the APD.
in the APD.
Okay. But we have other options. We could, Kathy, I know you said Route 28 wasn't something maybe that we wanted to talk
It's
about.
one of those
but-
things where I never really thought about it until you kind of asked the question, and it does say an F4 is special permit in the B2 zoning district. I think there's somewhere where the trampoline place was, they had some boat storage there. It wasn't
Yes.
a lot. But,
A lot of them stored in back of that.
and it was boat sales, sorry.
Okay,
What do I do?
that's where I am. I have a sense from the board that your draft option number 2 is one that most of the board feels might be the best one to put forward at this point. And we'll see where the public goes.
With the length and the registered trailer, or just a reference that the boat needs to be registered to the occupant of the property?
That's correct.
So we're getting rid of length trailer and just occupant registered.
No, I like length.
No,
Like length? Okay.
I-
Are we getting rid of registered trailer? Or are we getting rid of anything in this other, or are we just adding registered to the occupant of the property?
After the discussion, we were talking about getting rid of the trailer portion, but just leaving it to the registered occupant.
Yeah. I think, again, from my perspective, the registered trailer just is an added item that we could be silent on, and the boat's got to be on something, whether it's movable or not. It's got to be on something, and sometimes you can't get your boat in by April 1. Quite frankly, here on Cape Cod, you just can't get it in. And we've mentioned Dry Dock a couple of times, and Dry Dock is a company that comes and takes boats that are on stanchions. And sometimes you can't get it in until May 1. So the seasonality timeframe, I think, is one that is, and at the end of it, again, I'm being personal about this, but, my boat comes out of the water Thanksgiving time, because November's a good month. So again, we're going to let the public, help us determine what the best way is to put this. But my personal opinion, the range on the April 1 to November, personally, I think we could be more flexible with that. I also think we could be more flexible on whether or not it's on a registered trailer or not. But I'm more than willing to go forward with the way it's written now and see what the public has to say.
So we're leaving in the trailer.
That seems to be the sense of the board, so we'll leave it in.
Yeah. Can I ask for a
I
clarification?
think that's where the board is.
Okay, but the registered trailer requirement applies only to the second boat? Under the original zoning, you could have your boat in the backyard on blocks, and there'd be no problem?
That's correct.
Is that correct?
That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay. So it's just a requirement for the second boat?
For the boat in the driveway,
Yeah.
correct, in front of the building.
Okay.
Okay. Kath, do you have enough?
I think so, it's pretty simple.
Okay, great.
Oh, the one thing that we did talk about, you and I talked about, was we're going to go before the Select Board on August 12th to give them an update on the draft LCP, which we're going to be talking about in a little bit. But I'm wondering whether, because they were so against what we had proposed previously, whether we would like to get some input from them before we get too far along in this process, and maybe ask if we could just have a quick agenda item after the LCP update to kind of talk about this, just to give them an update where we are and see if they have any comments. I'd hate to get all the way through and then come up with the same exact problem that we had before.
And there were 2 members of the board who voted against this,
Currently still on the board.
currently on the board.
The Board of Selectmen, not the planning board, but the Board of Selectmen.
I think I'm the only one from the planning board from back then, 2018.
Yeah, I think so. I was on zoning.
So,
No, Oh, maybe if you were, there was some comments from you, but maybe it was from as being on.
He was there.
There we go.
So I can ask and see if we can be put on.
I remember the
I think that's a good
controversy, but I
idea.
think I was on zoning at the time.
You were on ZBA before you came here, yeah.
I don't know if you wanted to let anyone from the public.
Yeah, I do. Any members in the public who are here, thank you for joining us this evening. If you'd like to say anything, Mr. Garrity, right? Do I have it right? Gallagher, sorry. I should know better. I'm Irish.
Yes,
You have to come to the podium, sir.
yeah, I'd like to come, you want me to go up here?
Please.
Sure.
You sit here.
Or you can sit next to Mark.
No.
I want to thank you for your nice note.
Oh, you're very welcome.
We rarely get
Well,
thank you
appreciate
notes.
it. Appreciate it very much. First of all, thanks so much for having Officer Alden Childs. I'm not a resident, so I want to make that clear for the record again. On the 7th, when we came here, Officer Childs, who was a police officer in Brewster, he could not be here tonight. So he thanks you for the attention you gave him regarding his boat in his driveway, and he's on duty tonight. So I'm here to continue the process and dialogue with all of you, and we found it very, very, very positive. We were very, very gracious. You listened, and that's critical in our process of a democracy. I know because I've been there. But I will say this, it was been painful. It's been painful for Mr. Childs in the process. We are making great, heading forward, we're looking at some very good things. We thank you for listening, and the amendments that we are presently looking at seem very positive. And we thank you for that. Mr. Childs is not trying to be an advocate for boaters, but he has found himself and myself in that position, which we really appreciate, because the lack of transparency on the boating, whether you have it in your driveway or you don't, is very, very weak in this town. The enforcement was terrible. It's disgusting. And he had to go through that pain to represent the other boaters who do not know what the rules and laws are regarding a boat in your driveway. They just don't know it. And we hope that will change in the future as we get some new language to move forward. So thank you for that. We've gone over to look at that, the recommendations, size, 28 feet. I would say from my 60 years of boating on Cape Cod in the town of Barnstable, that, as I said at the last meeting, that size of boat, he has a 24-foot open, what we call a center console T-top. Probably the average boat you're going to see in a driveway, other than maybe another sized boat on a trailer. In Barnstable, I have had the privilege to have a boat. I started boating when I was 10 years old. I'm 74 today. And my brother has a boat today. He has a 24-footer, very similar again, T-top, that kind of set. Very, very popular. I think anyone that knows boating, I hope you, sir, would know that.
Yep.
I can't say that statistically that it's the average, but I would say it's very close. And what's happened is in our town, we have had no issue. So I hope the merit of what I'm saying, and take me for my trust in my confidence in my understanding of boating, we've had no issue. Absolutely no issue in the town of Barnstable, to my knowledge, of complaints. Now, I can tell you personally, on my street, we have several boats. In Hyannisport area, where I came from in the summers, We had no issues. I'm in Centerville now. We have boats on. We had Alden's boat in our driveway for the winter because Yarmouth said, get it out. So we did. We followed that rule after he was unfairly punished. And so the neighbors on our street, the survey, as small as it is, did not complain about the shrink wrap in the driveway. The comments were positive, overwhelmingly positive, because they understand, even people who don't own boats would say that looks great. I had the same experience when we had a boat. And I had a 20-foot, I had a 24-foot Mako. My brother has a 24, 25-foot. And his boat is in his driveway. He just put it in the other day because they were away. They were shrink wrapped. About 40 years, not one person complained about it. Matter of fact, they said the shrink wrap is a beautiful thing because it's professionally done. It looks clean. And I can't make someone, none of us can say, hey, you like the boat or you don't. If they get a problem with a shrink wrap boat in a driveway, I don't know how to reason with that kind of thinking. That's beyond my, I don't know how any of us approach someone.
We appreciate your comments. What's most important to us is the specific language we have here tonight. And it sounds like you are okay with generally the size of the boat, 28 feet.
Yes,
And
Chairman
that's
Crowley,
where we want to
are.
go.
We are very much.
I don't mean to cut you off, but we have other items on our agenda that we need to cover this evening. We were so glad that you came at our last meeting. We understand your position, and you'll be back again, because this will be on our agenda again.
Right.
So we appreciate that.
Thank you.
And as we go forward, just pay attention to our agendas as they come out.
Oh, we
and-
will.
And
We will. We thank you
hopefully-
for that. We thank
yeah.
you for that. Just one final comment that Officer Childs wanted you to know, if you're not aware, I'm sure the inspector must be aware of it, I hope he is, that there's a storage lot up down the road that's come down Forest, and the one that Wendy's restaurant, what's that road?
Old Town.
It's Old
I
Townhouse.
believe, has that been closed?
That's the one we were talking about.
It's been
gonna be
sold.
reopened.
I'm sorry if I couldn't hear everything,
That's okay.
but
Yeah. It's been sold.
what that does, so you know, I think you know the impact of that. You cannot get a mooring anymore. You cannot get, if you can afford a slip in a marina, so all of the economics that I mentioned back on the 7th, I hope you understand that.
We
It's all
do.
connected.
We do.
So we thank you
We
for that.
appreciate that.
We will keep in touch. You go to the selectmen on the 12th of August?
We're going to be going to them to talk about the draft local comprehensive plan, but then we're going to ask them.
Okay. Will that be the first
They're-
meeting with them on the draft?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it will.
They typically don't take public comment, just so you know,
Yeah.
except for the first 15 minutes of
The
their,
selectmen don't have public comment period?
In the
Except
first,
for the beginning.
except for the first 15 minutes of the meeting.
15 minutes.
I just don't want you to
15
think that you can
minutes?
talk at that
Oh, well,
time
I'll
when you
take a
need to
minute of
come.
that.
or-
If I need to. We're just trying to have a positive moving forward.
I understand. We appreciate you coming
Well,
tonight.
thanks so
Thank you.
much,
Yeah,
and,
we really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
We'll keep the process going. I
Great.
thank Mr. Grills for his opinion that he put in this, I believe, as he did in, I think, 2018.
Yes.
Did you put something in 2018?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thanking you for that. And so, on shrink wrap, though, I hope you'll take that seriously because I don't find it an issue. Thanks.
Okay, thanks so much.
thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Slovak.
a fun fact, the owner of Dry Dock was a friend of mine, and I asked what percentage of his boats were Yarmouth residents, and he said about 20%. So quite a bit less than somebody might have assumed.
Yeah.
Just 20%?
Yeah.
Oh.
Think about it, there aren't many storage yards elsewhere.
Right,
Yeah.
and they're pretty big, most
There,
of the
yeah.
boats in there were pretty
Yeah,
big.
oh,
so-
yeah, yeah.
so.
Yeah, thank you. One more zoning amendment, Kath?
No, the whole point is no. As much as I really wanted to get to that, there's just, with all the planning studies and all the other activities we have going, I'm not even going to pretend that I can get to it.
So
And it
we'll-
won't give us enough time to get the public understanding what's going on in it.
So we'll plan on that for annual,
Hopefully, yes.
maybe.
Maybe.
Okay.
Madam Chair, can I ask a quick question about that?
Yes,
I completely
Mr. Rubenstein.
understand. Thank you, Madam Chair. I understand what Kathy is saying. Since Mark is sitting in the room, maybe he can help shed some light on this. What are the practical impacts of delaying an amendment to match up with the state? Are there practical impacts that we need to worry about, or essentially not if we bring it up in 10 months?
I'm enforcing 760 CMR now. That's what I'm required to enforce, so I don't think that you have the ability to regulate that through zoning, and can't be very restrictive when it comes to that law that they wrote, so. Right now, it's not having any effect. I think I have 8 applications that we've issued permit, or we have 6 that we've issued, 2 that haven't been issued yet. I just provided a report to the state. They wanted to know how many of these units we've issued and how many we've not issued since the beginning of this law in February. So it's pretty straightforward. It's not super odd to enforce.
And how many did you not issue,
Thank you,
Mark?
Madam Chair.
2, but
2?
we're waiting on information.
Okay.
So
And how many have you issued, Mark?
6.
Thank you.
One of them has occupancy.
One of them has occupancy.
Okay. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, the local comprehensive plan, Kath. Couple of things. Cape Cod Commission has gotten back to us on what the initial draft was. They haven't gotten back to us on capital yet?
They did.
Okay.
Yep.
Um,
They,
did I
it's,
might
yeah,
have
it was
missed
on
that.
the draft LCP and capital information.
Okay. And then we're going to go through schedule meetings and then the final reports from our 2 consultants.
I think that the email that Chloe provided and Martha Hevener provided, the email actually identified things that we need to make sure that we've included in some fashion for certification purposes. And then they also attached what they considered some suggestions of things that we might want to include within the document itself. The concern that they had is their LCP regulations do require that we talk in some way about the Cape Cod place types in the growth policy. I think this is a case where we can probably, I've already talked to Jeff Bagg about this, that we can probably include something that talks about we're going to be protecting our natural areas, which is the vast majority of us, of the town of Yarmouth, and that we want to be working towards converting Route 28, which is our suburban commercial, more towards walkable villages, activity centers, and just kind of a couple sentences might be able to accommodate that. And then maybe when we get to the land use section, we'll actually include the place type map that they've generated, and then talk a little bit more explicitly about it in there. And I think that would probably cover it. They just need to make sure that we've talked about it in some fashion so that they can check it off. The biggest issue was related to the targeted action plan, and we can talk about that a little bit more in the implementation matrix. I had a separate meeting with them because I wasn't quite clear on what they were trying to get at here, and we talked about doing with the implementation matrix is just really kind of condensing the action items. They don't need to be as detailed as we have them in the verbiage, because that's really so people will fully understand what's going on. But by the time you get to the matrix, we just want to give a general blurb of it and then start looking at timeframes and looking at funding resources and responsible parties. And what you have or you're looking at right now is what I kind of did for the natural systems. Originally, when I came up with the action items, a lot of them were just things that I wrote them down as they came to my mind, not necessarily trying to put them in any particular order. I tried to reorder them a little bit based on some of the things that I heard. It's hard because a lot of them are all important, and it's hard to, so they're not necessarily within a direct 1, 2, 3, 4 ranking, because so many of them are so important or equally important. But I tried to put them into an order that might make sense. You have also in there, you have the action items themselves. I didn't redline the changes because it would be too confusing, but I did make a few minor changes to some of the wording, mainly related to the water supply, because there was a lot of bullet items under that first number 1 that didn't really make sense to be under that bullet. So there's a few modifications that I made there. I tried to match the timeframes to things like what we had in the capital plan, and also what we had, lots of them in the open space and recreation plan, we had some timeframes, and also the funding sources for that. So I gave this section a try, a little homework for you guys to kind of take a look at, see if you would kind of agree with it. I also want to do the other two systems, the built systems and the community systems. I'm hoping to get that done by the end of the week so I can distribute it to you guys as well as to town staff, because I think they're going to pay more attention now when their names are next to it as responsible parties. And I'm hoping, I did run things like the transportation by the town engineer, and she's like, yeah, we're working on all these things anyway. I think that's the key to these things that shouldn't be too surprising for people, because they're things I know that they're working on already. There shouldn't be any huge unexpected surprises. The timeframes, they might have some very specific, well, I'm not getting to that till 5 to 7 years from now, or whatever. So that would be very helpful to get their input on that. So that's kind of that second one. And then there's a bunch of different chapters that we didn't send to them that BSC group is working on, and one of them is, a whole chapter where we talk about our public engagement process, how we worked with the Cape Cod Commission. We still need to include the community goals. We have them, but we don't have the chapter on it. Yeah, and just looking through here. And then they're going to update, some recent action items. As we keep moving forward, we got to keep updating them until the last minute about things that are going on in town. A lot of great things. So I think they're working on a bunch of stuff as well as figures and maps and formatting. So they're trying to put together what is basically a full, complete draft. I'm working on the matrix and action items, and they're kind of working on everything else. And kind of hopefully will blend together nicely when we get there. I don't know if you wanted to go through this. They also included suggestions of things that we might want to consider including. But I take these as suggestions, and it's kind of up to you guys how you want to proceed with that. The first section is the natural resources, and they just mentioned that the open space and rec plan, they now allow you to go, instead of a 7-year plan, to go to a 10-year plan. We need to modify our action plan by September in order to qualify that. We have every intention of doing that, so the open space and rec plan will be a 10-year plan instead of a 7-year plan. So that's just kind of a FYI, make sure you know about that. The second one had to do with looking for some type of emergency situation redundancy with our water system. I think that was very helpful with Barnstable when they had the problems with the PFAS in their wells. We were able to interconnect and provide them with water. I don't know, that was maybe 4 years ago, while they got their PFAS treatment going on those two wells. I put in an email to Lori Vassal. I'm trying to find out whether that interconnection still exists for that redundancy. It obviously makes more sense for Barnstable than it does for Dennis, because we have a giant river between us.
We have a river between us. It's a little difficult.
Yarmouth stormwater regulations, they kind of said this in the open space and recreation plan as well, is we always are concentrating on nitrogen removal for our marine estuaries, but now how about phosphorus for our ponds and our freshwater resources? So just adding phosphorus in there to that action item.
So as we go through these, from your perspective, these are all reasonable suggestions?
No.
Are these that we just went through, are they reasonable?
The first one, we don't need to do anything.
Yeah,
The second one, I just need to double check with Lori. I've kind of included it as a redundancy comment in what you have. And then adding the phosphorus is fine.
Okay.
With regard to the transportation, I talked to Amanda about the safe routes to school. We can't participate that until we have gone through the complete streets process, but we already are talking about doing that. There's an action item, we can add a little thing and then participate in the safe routes to school. So that's a good suggestion. And they're kind of, the second one is the town wants to consider expansion of pedestrian bike infrastructure on roadways as we are doing things like sewer expansions and that type of thing. They keep mentioning this. They mention it also in capital. Like anytime you're doing something, try to layer your infrastructure together, which we do. We're doing the sewer, but we're also, while we're there, we're doing the water main. And then on top of that, we'll get the streetscape done. So we're already kind of doing that type of work. So we can see if there's like a little word or two we can add in on that. The third one has to do with establishing more committees, and both Amanda and I are adamantly against that.
That's a big no.
So that's a no. I think that the point is we want to,
That's
we
a
wanna-
really big no.
we want to have public input, and we've been doing a great job engaging the public and getting their input. But staff can be much faster and nimbler if we can work on these projects ourselves without having to have open meeting laws, agendas, minutes, and all of those things. It doesn't mean we're not going to get tons of public input on these things. We will, but it doesn't need to be governed and run by a committee. The safety campaigns related to Vision Zero, both Amanda and I kind of thought, we already mentioned the Vision Zero action plans. We don't need to do anything addition to that, so that would kind of be not really. Under community design, it's kind of a good point. Staff notes that the protections offered to buildings within Old Kings Highway District are different than those in the National Register, and just kind of acknowledge those differences. It's probably a sentence or something that we can add in. I don't have a problem with that.
Just on that, Kathy, I don't want to belabor this, and it's getting late. Why would a comment like that be needed in a local comprehensive plan?
I don't
like a fact. Two different districts exist, and they have different requirements. I mean, the local comprehensive plan isn't meant to be the encyclopedia about everything about the town. So when comments like this come in from the commission, I appreciate them, but I'm wondering, how detailed the plan is supposed to be.
I think these is a sentence.
Okay.
Personally, it's up to you guys. It's just, but I think that, lots of people may or may not know that there are very distinct.
But the question then, so we make the sentence, and then someone will say, well, what are they? So is the local comprehensive plan supposed to?
I'd like to, we probably won't have it for the draft that goes to the public, but it would be really great to have all the kinds of links to the old Kings
okay,
Highway,
okay,
links
yep,
to this, links to
yep.
that. So if you want to learn more, this is where you go.
I see. Oh, okay.
Commission
It's
has
good
done a
point.
great job relying on links in their reports to keep it.
They do.
To keep it down.
They do a great job on
You
that.
could spend more time delving into the links than you ever did reading.
And then you forgot where you are, and you try to go back, and you're like, wow, where was I? Anyway.
And then the other one is just, whether we want to mention the demolition delay bylaw. I don't feel as strongly about including that. It's just one of those things where it just delays it for 6 months. It doesn't prevent it from happening, but again, we could mention it if you guys want to. I don't
see any need to.
Yeah.
Go, Mark, you were going to say something.
Yeah.
The demolition delay in Old Kings Highway is not for 6 months. It's,
12?
no, it's not.
Oh, what is it?
No, we just had an attorney point that out to us. They want you to redesign your project, come up with a better plan.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So there's no demolition?
There is a demolition delay, meaning you're not doing your
Just not de-
project, but
It's not defined.
you got to come up with a better way, period.
In Old Kings Highway.
In Old Kings Highway, the South Yarmouth Historic District, that's different. That's a 6-month demolition delay.
Demolition delay applies to any building over 75 years
Correct.
old. So any building over 75 years old, even like,
Oh, my house is getting there.
yeah. I think
Do something.
75 years?
75 years, which is creeping,
Oh, my
it's creeping
goodness.
up on us to a lot of, we
Yeah.
did have a lot of 60s,
Yeah.
70s houses, and,
Yeah.
yeah. So that might be something to think about, the
I
time.
mean, you think about the development boom in the 50s. I mean, 75 years is coming up real quick.
So because of that additional information, do we want to add anything about it?
No.
No? Okay.
I think not.
All right, so no, thank you. And then, as we move on, solid waste, this is something where we're already kind of doing this. Staff recommends adding a sentence or two about the potential role of the Yarmouth Railhead Transfer Station property in regional solutions for improved waste management. It's already a commercial transfer station.
Right.
It's already regional. What else?
It's already regional, so I was unclear on.
Exactly what would we mention?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So that's a no.
I mean, unless we don't refer to it at all, but I think, I vaguely remember that we do, but,
Yeah, I thought there was something in there about it.
because it's the end of the trail head, basically, and that's why, yeah, okay. And this is kind of one of those things where, another one where, This makes me think that they just didn't have a lot to say because we did such a good job,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
so.
yeah,
In all
yeah.
seriousness.
Yep.
about, just referencing and coordinating construction projects. Again, if you're doing a roadway project, maybe you want to do the water at the same time if it needs
I
to be
would think that's
replaced.
a no-brainer. That's our plan right along, so,
I think it's a sentence of saying,
yeah,
You know.
that's our intention.
yeah, right.
It's what we do now.
That's right.
And they say that, while it's the standard practice for the town. They just kind of want to explicitly describe the town's intent and process. It's all done through the CIP process and through DPW and management. It's like good town management. Oh, and, this is like, it would be help to confirm that the major capital facilities infrastructure projects are being designed and cited with resiliency in mind. I think that that's becoming a bigger issue for the entire town of Yarmouth. I think it's something that we are doing. I think we even have an action item
But I
that
think we
says
do
that.
mention it.
That's right.
I
It's
think
already
we
being
did
built
mention
into the wastewater project, so, I mean, I can say that much.
I think this was a cut and paste. Bullet points.
I don't think
Okay, Peter.
And then I did talk to Amanda about the EV chargers. I mean, the capital plan specifically says it's not for small projects. And I'm sorry, but an EV charging station is a relatively small capital project. And that we have them already at Town Hall, DPW at Bayberry, and the senior. Those are level 2, and they're free. So you have to park there for 8 hours. I do mention, I think, an action item of installing more level 3, which is the fast charging ones at places. But we didn't see a reason to add anything in capital on that one.
No. The only reason you would is if, I think, Ken, on capital, if you were to bundle them into a site,
Yeah.
and there would be the accumulation of 10 of them or 20 of them might break the kind of the limit on what you need to have it be capital.
Right.
So, I mean, we've done, anyway, that's the only reason why
Yeah.
it
Or
would
if
be.
you did them at all like the South Shore beaches, if you had them, then
Yeah.
you bundle those
If you-
all
yeah.
together and they would be a
I mean,
lot
and if
bigger.
they got to be, over 10,000 or whatever the new limit is,
But they do have people who come to DPW and park at the end of the day and charge their cars
really?
for the night, yeah.
Do it here, too.
Yeah, I've seen it here.
Really?
Yeah. Cool.
Oh, wow.
I don't think we charge, it's free.
Metered, but it's free to them.
It's free to them,
Yeah.
not to us.
If they're paying it on their taxes, so,
Well, if they're local.
good point.
But I think, the hotels and places like that are being much more proactive, I think, with level 3 chargers because they, want to provide it. So that's that.
Okay.
I think, just to look a little bit at the schedule, they're just all the things that BSC groups, we just wrote it down so that we would know, that I would know and you would know what they're working on over the next week and a half, or 2 weeks. They've been working on it for a while. So we got the comments back on the 9th. We're talking about it today, but BSC group is really hoping to have a draft for your packets next Friday, not this Friday, but next Friday. My packet may be a little separate from that, but, and then we need to possibly have I'd like to have a supplemental meeting on July 30th, really just to kind of talk about just that, get your guys' input, any final edits, just to okay that this is what we're going to put out for the 30-day public comment. And then we'll have it out all of August. And then when we come back, we can, we don't have all of the dates here. I didn't get to finish the schedule. But in between that, we'll meet with the select board on the 12th, give the presentation, kind of get their input. And then when we're done on the 1st, we can, in the beginning of September, see how, maybe in the middle of August, we'll check in and see what kind of comments we have. And then in September, we can look at that. And then depending on how many we get, will be a little bit of a function of when we schedule the formal public hearing. I'm thinking it might be later, that might be October 1, but it's not going to be, I think originally we were looking at September 10th.
Can we do just a quick check on availability for the 30th?
Would be great.
I know I'm available.
Is that 2 weeks from today? Or next week, 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
I will probably be late. Is that, I mean, I have to, I'll be coming from something in Falmouth, and I'm not sure I'll be
Yeah.
able
Well,
to make it. I'll plan to
Yeah,
come.
okay,
but
great.
But I know,
And our next meeting isn't until 2 weeks after that, the 13th of August. No.
No, we're the 6th. It would be the next week. It would be the 6th.
Would be the 6th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I know, I'm sorry. We're kind of having to meet kind of as we get stuff done. The schedule is really
Oh, yeah,
compressed.
So
you're
it's
right.
not August
I'm
5th?
sorry. It is August 6th, my mistake. Okay, so we need to get a sense of who might be available for the 30th. So Susan, yes?
Yeah, I am,
Okay.
yep.
Deidre, maybe late, Peter? Okay? Ken?
I'm
Yeah.
available.
Mr. Saban?
Mr. Saban has exited the building.
Well, maybe you can speak for
He
him.
sent me a message that he had to leave. Sorry, Madam Chair.
That's under-
I'm still trying to be the clerk even when I'm not there. Unfortunately, because of camp responsibilities, I will be not. I won't be on the Cape on the 30th.
Okay, all
I will
right.
not be. Sorry.
Well, we'll make sure you get a copy of the draft and, you
And
know.
I am doing my best to look at it in my spare time. I promise. And I know we still have a little bit of distance left in this
We do,
race.
yeah. So if you do have comments, though, we'll, before we issue it on August 1st, right?
Yeah, hopefully there's not a ton of comments.
A lot of comments.
And we can do it
You know,
right
if
on
you
August
have
1st.
something that's a burning issue, just make sure you get
I
in touch
promise
with
I
Kathy.
will email that to Kathy.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
That'd be great. That'd be great. Okay. Sorry, Kathy. I just wanted to get.
No, I appreciate
Make
that.
sure that we could do it on the 30th.
So your homework initially is just, you know, do you have any comments on the natural systems? And then hopefully by the end of the week, you can get the other ones and let
So
me know.
for these two that you gave us tonight, you want us to do a little bit of homework and
I would appreciate that.
check in with Kathy as to comments as soon as you can. Kathy is on vacation next week, and we're not going to bother her. But any comments that we can get, either by the end of the week or the following week would be good.
Yeah. It would, yeah, I probably will end up working next Friday just because I'm going to get the stuff from Jeff and I need to compile it and get the packet out to you
Okay.
guys.
All right.
So, yeah, send me whatever you have, even if it's piecemeal, you know, the natural systems you didn't get to before, whatever. I keep concentrating on the natural systems because they're the first, and I feel really good about them, but we need to concentrate
It is a good
on-
chapter, for
on the
sure.
other stuff, for sure. But yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
Are we done with the other two, with the union and the, we not bother to review those?
This is it. I don't think there's anything shocking in here that's different than what was presented on the 25th. They're just kind of basically compiling all this information in one particular place, so we have the report. I do think that somewhere in the land use section, we need to talk about this, and I know that Jeff's going to add something in recent town actions, kind of more detail on what this is happening. And then, you know, maybe some more generic action item related to, you know, reviewing these in more detail and considering these recommendations or something, just because we really haven't had a chance to digest any of it. As Susan pointed out, we haven't really discussed it other than, you know, hearing about it at the meeting. So there's some things in here that, you know, probably won't necessarily fly in Yarmouth, that we all know our community, more than consultants do sometimes, but it's certainly good information that needs to be, you know, reviewed as we move forward.
Madam Chair, can I just clarify, because I wasn't at our previous meeting, we are still working backwards from November 17th, right, as a proposed special town meeting date?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So Kathy, with regard to the BSC group report, it's mostly, with regard to their recommendations, which begins on page 13, those are, these are being incorporated in some way as considerations in the LCP? What?
No, it's
how-
going, we're going to reference this.
This, okay.
And we'll reference this as the
Okay.
results of it.
Got it.
And then we'll say, we need to look at these recommendations more closely.
great.
I'm not going to pull out any of these
Oh,
recommendations.
okay, great. Okay.
We're
That
not
sounds
that
good.
far along.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good. Anything else on local comprehensive plan, Kath? On to meeting minutes. May I have a motion to accept the minutes of June 25th?
Want to talk about muck?
What?
Want to talk about muck?
Oh, sorry, I missed Muck. It's right here on my list, Muck, number 3, sorry.
Really quickly, the Muck had their workshop meeting last night, BSC group, same crew. Jeff was there, as well as Adam and Heather, and Jeff Fasser gave a presentation of kind of where we are with the land use groups, gave a summary of the survey, and then we ended up having a bunch of facilitated questions. We broke up into breakout groups. We had 3 groups in here, 1 group in the conference room. We had like 35 people in person, and then they had 2 breakout groups with about 12 people online. A little bit less than obviously what we had at the January LCP, but they just did a survey, and I find that lots of people are like, I just provided my input in a survey, so sometimes they don't necessarily come to a workshop. And then in addition to answering the facilitated questions, we also did a little mapping exercises with different squares of where we might want, where would you like to see some housing? Where would you like to see fields? You know, they had a bunch of different blocks that kind of represented kind of standard sizes. So it will help them kind of develop some bubble diagrams of, okay, we want recreation over here, maybe the school goes here, maybe housing goes here, and that type of thing. And all of that's going to be compiled and summarized at the MUC meeting on August 11th. So,
Without the assistant town administrator, who's sort of spearheading or bringing this to the finish line? Is there somebody, or? I mean, Bill.
Question.
Oh, okay, I don't know.
There's been no transition, like formal transition. I'm trying to help as much as I can. Obviously, my number one goal has to be the local comprehensive plan because we can't let that slip. But yeah, I've been helping as much as I can. Then there's also the library. And I'll let Susan give an update on that, but they also met on Monday, and that process is moving forward. But they're interviewing people for the assistant town administrator. They've been back, lots of people with suits and fancy clothes.
So if you know anyone, send them, have them call.
So that maybe that's the idea of transitioning to them. I've always kind of been involved in the MEC just because I want to keep tabs on it for the local comprehensive plan, and Bill's been very good about saying that's my role. But with him not there, they you know, the consultants need some help. They need to have things answered and stuff. So I'm trying to fill that role, at least temporarily.
His last day was Friday, last Friday?
Monday.
Monday.
Bastille Day.
Bastille Day.
Do you want to?
Anything else on Muck, Kathy?
And basically, they're going to start, you know, after they get all that workshop and input from the MUC, the consultant's going to start looking at, you know, developing some concept, 3 concepts. So they're going to do that probably over the rest of the summer into the, like, you know, mid-September. The whole idea is to get that done by the end of the year as well. At least the 3 concepts to the select board for their review.
I don't know if, did you notice that economic development and housing was down the bottom of the surveyed list, it seems? It wasn't certainly one of the top third.
Right.
Bottom third.
The full survey results, even with the written-in comments, which are very interesting, and I recommend people read those if you want to get a full understanding of people who took the survey, are on that Matakey's Utilization Project website.
So now, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I move the minutes of June 25th be.
All in favor? Or do we have to do a roll call with Will?
Yeah,
We have to do a roll call. Will?
Sorry, I am mucking things up. See what I did there?
That's
Abstain.
okay.
Abstain.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Slovak?
Aye.
Ms. Britta?
Aye.
Ms. Gaquin? Aye. And myself? Aye. Minutes are approved. We just got the committee update on MUC. Susan, you want to give us a brief
Just
overview
quickly,
of the library?
we met Monday, and Kathy was there. The schedule is very aggressive because they have a state deadline. So we're meeting constantly, sometimes twice a week from now until, until they actually have us get the stuff submitted to the state. We are going to have a public, what are we calling it, Kathy? A public community meeting on the 17th of September, 2 in one day. 1 in the afternoon for people that cannot attend at night, and one at night for people that cannot be there during the day.
It's the 13th of
I thought-
August?
No, I thought they moved it back because we didn't, was it the 13th or the 17th? I'll get the
17th
date.
is
It's
a
either the 13th. It's in August. It's either the 13th. I thought they moved it because we didn't have enough time to get it,
It was originally going to be on the 7th,
and they moved it a week.
training, and they moved it to the 13th
And then
because they
the-
could get this room.
That's right. So it's going to be on the 13th, and it'll be there'll be two meetings that day, one at 1 and one at 7 o'clock. And it's basically, it's really a concept meeting, no decisions, just this is where we are, what are your thoughts? And it will be, a large part will be discussion of the site, which is the site, of course, right across the street. But they're moving very aggressively. The architect was there. They've already started doing some blocking and stacking in terms of where they want space to go. It's going to be a very lively discussion because there's a lot of discussion about space. And do we little things like, do we need little toilets in the kids' bathrooms, or do we do regular? Those things, although they sound mundane, have a big impact on the budget. So those are the kinds of things that we have to get involved in. But they are moving very aggressively. They're on target. They were down here. They visited the site. Their survey work's almost done. And we're meeting, as I said, we're meeting constantly to keep this thing on schedule because we cannot miss the time frame. So,
Madam Chair, would you allow one quick question for Ms. Britta?
Absolutely.
Thank you. What are the implications for the Seaside Festival if the library is built in that location?
well, that was funny you should say that, Will, because that was a major topic of discussion Monday night. The sentiment.
I
right-
apologize because of
Yeah.
work. I just.
No, that's all right. It's, they're, everyone's got tons of meetings to go to. The sentiment right now, Will, is that there will be virtually no impact. First of all, certainly for this year, there'll be no impact because nothing's going to be happening, no construction. And the concept, the site is so huge that no matter where they put the library on the site, there's going to be plenty of open space to accommodate the Seaside Festival, which is a major, major concern of a lot of people in the town. And the architects are very aware of that, as are the library people. And certainly Monday night, the general sentiment seemed to be there's going to be enough space to accommodate the Seaside Festival, regardless of where they put the library. So that's what now that may change, but right now, that seems to be, it is not going to be in jeopardy.
There's still going to be a very large area.
Yeah, it's
Now, whether
huge.
that's the area specifically where they have all their underground electric and water, there might need to be some work as part of the library to address that so that they have all of that. But it's still going to be fairly large
Yeah.
area because the whole idea is the town common.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Susan.
Well, I have you, Will, any RAC updates?
Oh, I have an update. Yes. I was unable to attend the meeting, but I watched the entire video earlier today. There are a few things. I know the select board hasn't met, so I'll just start with the biggest headline. The select board hasn't met since June 24th. The RAC met on July 7th. And as it relates to pump station number 2, there has been no progress on the location. The town is still negotiating a solution. Jeff Colby this is me re-quoting Jeff Colby. The select board has been meeting in executive session. He says there are multiple parties involved. So we're still not in a resolution there, and it does have some implications because while the contractor that originally won the bid, which is Diggett Construction, is still holding their quote. But
wow.
it remains to be seen whether or not that has to be completely redone if the location of the pump station moves.
Right.
So I just wanted to start with the most, what I would say, urgent part of the wastewater project. I understand there are other things that are urgent, but to me, that is the most urgent in terms of all of phase 1 continuing to move in the timeline that it's supposed to move in. So unfortunately, because of my job, I'm not able to pay too close attention to select board meetings, but I would ask all of us on the planning board if you do hear of things, because the RAC only meets once a month. If there is a resolution that the select board, comes down from the mountain with the tablets and says, this is where the pump station's going to be, and we've worked it all out, I would appreciate some communication. To me, personally, it would be really nice to know, and then we can start telling and asking people, because on our committee, as you can imagine, a lot of our committee members on the RAC are getting that question asked of us constantly. And so the more that we can share with each other if we hear things, especially from the select board, I'd appreciate it. Also, the plant, the facility is certainly underway. We've got lots of earthwork going on, lots of excavation, foundations are coming and have started. As far as the discharge, the state, as you know, the DEP has been working with us since they only issued us a permit that is, I'm just going to say it, inadequate. And so we are working, they are working to their credit and making some good progress, according to Jeff, which is kind of interesting. There's going to be, at Bayberry, a main recharge area buried under the driving range and some proposed new parking lots. So that's kind of interesting. And we're actually doing a pilot test along some of the fairways this fall and winter to see, with some manholes, actually, and some ways of hopefully being able to take a lot of the extra load. We also talked about, the engineers are now talking about using the existing force main that goes down Buck Island Road, but now using it in the opposite direction to the golf course, which means that we'd have to build a pump station at the septic plant, which is not the end of the world, but we need to push that extra flow into these new storage pads and storage areas that I just referenced at the golf course. Again, we have time to figure this out, and there'll be pilot tests this winter, but it can't be gravity fed. It has to be pumped. I cannot speak for Madam Chair, but I was told at this RAC meeting on the video I watched that Station Avenue is paved. Is that true?
That is true.
There you go. How about near your house, Madam Chair?
All paved.
Lovely. Okay, so again, that meeting was a week ago, so I'm glad to hear that that is true.
My only disappointment is from 2 access points, I'm only 100 feet away.
Understood.
The sewer.
I'm only 100 feet away from the sewer.
Yeah, the domes.
And I'm going to have to wait.
Oh, you mean you're 100 feet?
I'm
like
100
net
feet away from
the phase
the
that's
house
going
on,
right
on
through.
my street that is going to have a connection.
Right.
So I'm 2 houses away. So Phase 2, you keep reminding us that Phase 2 is open for negotiation, so
Well, I mean,
maybe
again,
maybe I should join in there.
But I will say this, truly, that starting in the fall, we will be having discussions about Phase 2 because it will be time to start thinking about and talking about Phase 2, despite the fact that, you know, Contract 6 is still not quite done. However, I have some other good news. According to what I heard, that in terms of the construction for all the water and the sewer work on 28, again, in the sections that have already been done, that is done. And in fact, the town, Jeff Colby said, is going to do the final paving of the Route 28 sections that have been under construction. The town is going to do that, obviously, except for where MassDOT is now going to come in, as we know, farther down 28 when they start that intriguing roundabout project, whenever that's going to be. Let's see. The good news is Western Parkers River, which is contract 5, we now have an intent of award. DEP is now doing its dance, its approval dance. Digit Construction did get it, and they will be starting in the mid-fall. So that's, again, 28 Western Parkers River to Higgins Crowell. So that is moving. That is going forward. Unfortunately, contract 6, which is connected to that directly to the west. Am I doing that right?
Yeah, you're doing right.
Yes. Thank you, Ken. That's the one that's being held up by the pump station location,
Right.
and at some point, relatively soon, they've got to get this resolved, or else the dominoes stop falling, and that's not what anybody wants. So I will continue to keep you updated. And then lastly, because of this progress now shifting and construction work shifting down 28 to the west, that DPW and the Yarmouth Police, I know Mike Bryant retired, but they have a new contact at the Yarmouth Police. And they will be starting to reach out to business owners soon because detours need to be established. Neighborhoods are going to be impacted when that work starts in the fall. And now, apparently, in the next few weeks, DPW and the police will be talking to the business owners and homeowners in those areas about what's coming in the fall. Last but certainly not least, Jeff Colby and Spiro Mitrakostas, who's the chair of the RAC, will be at the select board meeting next Tuesday night, which will be the first select board meeting, I think, in about a month, except for the goal setting one I think they just had. And there'll be a presentation by Jeff where maybe he'll have more insight and maybe there will be a solution to the pump station issue at that point. And then the RAC, I'm sure, Representative Spiro, I'm sure, will make it clear that we're very open to having people come and participate in our meetings and/or, tell us how things are going. Because as we know, Madam Chair, residents are not shy, nor should they be. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Will.
Can I ask?
Yes.
Just one question.
Mr. Smith?
Well, just a quick question for you. Has there been any discussion at all about doing any type of temporary milling and temporary paving to Route 28 in the sections that the work has been done in before winter? Because I don't see how they could even plow that road, so.
Yeah, well, it feels to me, that's a good question, Ken. It feels to me that the town of Yarmouth is going to be doing a final pave this fall
Yeah.
of the sections that were just completed. So I guess my short answer is yes, and it will be done by DPW because I didn't quite know this, but I did learn it from watching the meeting, is that the final pave was actually not in the bids for either Robert Auer or Rivoli. So the town has basically said, you know what, we're going to do it, and we're going to do it our way, and we're going to do it comprehensively, but it won't be until the fall. So I am pretty confident that it'll be done before the winter, Ken.
Okay. Thanks, Will.
That's great.
You're welcome. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Slovak, CEDC?
CEDC, well, I mean, Kathy, if you can confirm for me, we're looking for 5 new members?
All I know is that Courtney, Danielle, Joe Manning, and Joe Gibbs resigned.
Resign. And then
Whitney resigned?
Steve O'Neill had already resigned.
Right.
a couple weeks
So
before.
it leaves the Peters and the repeat.
Yeah.
The Pete and the repeat.
Right, right. And the other Peter, who wasn't at the meeting, or it might be 6. So I'm not speaking for Peter, but he wasn't there, so he didn't have a chance to.
He stopped by. It sounds as though he's interested in continuing forward. I mean, he didn't indicate to me anyway that he was thinking of resigning.
That's good, because I think he was nominated to the Design Review Committee.
He
so
was.
not being there, so,
This is Courtney Butler resigned?
yeah. There was a selectmen meeting.
was
We
there.
had our CDC meeting last week, and the select meeting was there. And it wasn't just a select meeting. It's been a tough couple of years, I think, for this committee. I mean, the committee, it's really too bad, because this was a super committee. They were really wanted to do and carry out the charge, and focusing on the chamber part of it, as well as trying to get our feet into the economic development part of it, which we can never do because you spend so much time dealing with the chamber stuff. And I think at the last meeting, we were looking at doing a rebrand, possibly paying for a survey for a rebrand of Yarmouth, because we saw all the changes that are coming and the economic development that's coming and everything we're doing. And we said, well, why don't we, the chamber's had the same contract for 10 years. So maybe it's time to look at a rebrand and identify really what are we now?
Definitely.
Yarmouth within reach. And a lot of people don't understand what that means anymore. That was 10 years ago or many years ago. So, along with that, we wanted to shift some of the chamber contract budgeting money, special project money, back to us, back to, because there's a little bit of inconsistency. The chamber does their special projects, but then they need extra money, so then they got to come back, or we have to revote it. So we were going to just sort of take all of the special projects under
Your umbrella.
our umbrella, the same way we treat all the special projects. So it wasn't an elimination, but it was more sort of a consolidation, and maybe looking at the chamber contract in another way. It's been the same contract for 10 years, and it's really, if you look at it, it's written so that only the chamber can
Right.
be the winner.
It's called sole sourcing, which is, after 10 years, it's almost against the law. It becomes
But-
like an entitlement program at that point.
I mean, and the selectmen, 3 were mostly supportive,
Right.
and you were there.
I was there. I thought Courtney did an awesome job.
Courtney did a great job, but I think by the 3rd or 4th time, I listened to it at home, but by the 3rd or 4th time, I think I heard one of the selectmen say lack of communication on our part, which we've done nothing but communicate really well. We've had the muck thrown at us. We haven't had an economic development coordinator for 2+ years. The assistant town administrator, maybe saw him once in 2 years at a meeting, good with memos. The muck thing was thrown at us. We did that. It was supposed to be 3 muck meetings. We were told not to attend the first one. We were going to have separate meetings. So, I think the CEDC did a lot of sort of work, to carry out what the charge was. And I just think it was clear we weren't going to be able to go in a direction we hoped to try to go to. And the parade was brought up again at the last meeting from last year, so they started to rehash something from a year ago. And I think that was enough. And I wasn't surprised. After the meeting, I watched it and I said, oh, I bet you they're going to walk in there.
It was
and resign.
unfortunate,
Yeah.
because you guys had made a lot of progress. At least you've shaped things up.
Right. And so that's where that committee's
Old
at.
habits die hard.
See where that goes.
Too bad.
Any other committee?
Just
Yes,
real quick
Mr.
on
Smith, yes.
capital budget.
Yep.
We did have a meeting 10 days ago now with Bill, Assistant Town Administrator, prior to him leaving, just to see where we stood with everything, mainly on the software side, because Bill had put so much work into streamlining the capital budget process. And we wanted to make sure before he left town that we were set up to move forward with it. And the software is in good shape. We all have a pretty good working knowledge of the back end, and actually, myself and Sandy and on the capital budget committee have contact with the software developer now, so if we have issues, we can reach right out to them. But the good part about it was we've streamlined a process to get out to the department heads in town to help them hopefully get their capital budget plans put together sooner rather than later, to give us more time to spend with them and truly get a better understanding of, we can't do everything, so what is your real needs, rather than sitting there and trying to figure it out in the last second and say, okay, yep, we're gonna do this. When there may be something more important, and it just doesn't present that way in the way we've been kind of doing in the past. So I'm actually excited for the direction we're going with it. So we will be starting next month. We're gonna have meetings almost every week, so
It's here.
it's here.
It's
Yeah.
here. Thank you, Ken.
And from housing, there were.
Yes.
We had a meeting
Deirdre?
on Monday, excuse me. Mary presented a draft regulations from the state of a possible starter home zoning district, which, I think it's, excuse me, it's coming up, but it's not going to be enacted for a long time, so there'll be review periods, but that's something that we'll be involved in, obviously, because it's zoning, and it's basically for the town, a town can establish an area which has by right zoning of four houses per acre with a maximum 1850 square feet. And I can't remember it just had a lot of requirements that would make it amenable to small houses. So it's very interesting, and there didn't seem to be anything particularly controversial in it. If it comes up, it'll be sent to us, I'm sure. So,
I think it's the 4 houses per acre that's the controversial
Yeah.
part.
exactly.
1,500 square feet.
Right,
That's
but the
pretty good
point
size.
is that we don't have to do it. So it's just something
So
that's
this is a proposal from the
state.
From the state.
That,
More of a
that-
Housing
Healy,
and livable communities, okay, I
Yeah.
see, okay.
that Healy administration, just out of the box thinking.
Yeah, I guess.
and I don't, since I don't know the processes yet, I'm just reporting what I.
Well, thank you.
And then the Habitat project is ongoing and almost ready to be presented to the select board. And then there's been a purchase at 645 Route 28, and they're going to put up a mixed-use building.
Where is 625?
It is at the corner of Appleby.
Across from Jerry's.
Yeah, yeah,
Across from what?
Cumberland Farms across
Jerry's.
the street.
yeah.
Jerry Seafood.
Jerry Seafood.
Next to Cat Parker's.
Oh, yeah.
I guess it's an abandoned Chinese
Used to
restaurant.
be used to be
Yeah, I
a
saw the
Chinese
sign.
Yeah.
I saw the sign.
green building there.
Yeah, and that's going to be 2 commercial units and 11 apartments. 4 of them will be affordable and 1 will be accessible. And 1 will be a 2-bedroom, 10 will be 1-bedroom. And anyway, that's what they're planning at the
That's what
moment.
the plan. How
Yeah.
big, that's,
So Kat, do you know if that's gone to design review? Where in the process is that?
No, it came before the Affordable Housing Trust because they responded to an RFP. So we've seen it. to provide comments, so they've kept improving it. I can't tell you how nice it is to work with someone who's like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll change that, and they're really, really, really trying to make it look as nice as possible. So it hasn't gone through any town permitting yet. It just went through the Affordable Housing Trust, and I think they gave $450,000, maybe.
I didn't write down.
They were awarded some money for the project by the Affordable Housing Trust in response to their RFP. I guess they're going to be going out with a bunch more RFPs in the near
So
future.
this RFP was specific to that site?
No, it was specific to, I think it might have been like blighted properties, or I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was, you got extra points if you did a mixed-use development.
Are you, this is just an opinion I'm asking, but based on all the work we've done on the mixed use, does this seem to be a kind of in line with where some of the consultant thoughts have been moving in terms of what they're recommending to us, or?
In terms of design?
Yeah,
I think the design is looking great. I don't know whether he's put pen to paper with regard to the pro forma and how that all works out. And I don't think he has anyone particular for the commercial space. So I think hopefully he can get through all the way to the end and construct it. But I think having the $450,000 from the Affordable Housing
And the
Trust
fact that they're going to
really
put
makes a
commercial
big
space in
difference.
28 is awesome.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, that's
It's
a
a good
real,
spot, and you can walk right down to
that's a
the
real,
Parker's
it's the
River
first time in a
Landing.
long
and
time.
It's a great spot.
But I guess what my question is, we've had these two reports tonight. It seems like this is good news in relation to some of the recommendations that have been coming through from the consultants on how it might work on 28.
I think, they would always probably would have, this was a somewhat of an odd situation because it's two parcels. The parcel in the back that's the parking, that's actually an R25.
Right.
It's only the smaller parcel in the front that's the VC. And that's one of those lots where we probably I should have thought about that and incorporated it because it really is kind of being developed or has been developed as one lot in the past. And lots of times you'll see that we have gone back that little bit extra with the VCOD. So he was limited to 11 units, and I'm sure he would have preferred to have, 13 or 14. He originally came in, I think, with 22? Yeah, and was going to do a Chapter 40B, but when he found out that we had this by right VCOD zoning, he's like, I want to do that. And he's been very, we went through it all with him, and he came back with a proposal for the mixed use.
Do you have any, is the name of the corporation or the who is developing this?
Let's see if I wrote it down.
Yeah, it's Dennis Kirkado.
I think it's a Bay Ridge.
Bay Ridge.
Bay Ridge, yep. Okay, that sounds right.
Can we put that on the Route 28 map
I was going to ask.
as a
you about that,
project?
yeah.
I think it's in there.
The map that we've got with all the, so it's already on there? Okay.
I'm questioning myself now.
Oh, really? That's great.
Kathy, do we, what are we,
645, Route 28 in Appleby, 18 Appleby, former restaurant. It's on there.
what are we telling developers about sewer? I mean, some of these projects may not start until they know they're going to be completed when the sewer is there, right?
Beginning of 2028 is my understanding. I don't know if Will has any more information.
In terms of when the plant is online?
When you can start flushing a
Flow will
toilet.
flow.
Yeah, that's been the timeline that I've heard, and I think would be consistent with when Ken was serving on that committee as
Yeah,
well.
I
It's
mean,
supposed to
the
be- I would
date
just
is
say early 2028.
The date's important too from a financing standpoint, so.
No.
So,
Agreed.
yeah, so I think that they have to get at least something flowing to the plant by then, or else there's potential state finances saying, you're not ready and we're not gonna give you any more money, so, at
Right.
least in the phases.
Right.
So I think that date is, I won't say etched in absolute stone, but it's an important date.
Agreed, which again, if you just back all these things up to my earlier update, got to get this pump station thing resolved.
Any other board member items?
I do have one. I
Yes,
just noticed that I
Deirdre?
expired this
And
month.
go away.
I'm sorry, what?
So we need to,
reappoint me.
the reappointment process.
Oh, if you just send me an email that you're interested in being reappointed,
Okay.
and then I'll forward it to Pam, and
Thank
they'll
you.
put it on, yeah. You're still obligated to serve until someone else is appointed.
Right.
That's, yeah,
Can I just add 3 updates?
brand new, but you were filling a seat.
Give the success with that site What about Great Island? Any action on Great Island at all, Kathy?
There's some discussions going on behind the scenes that's not really for public consumption, but I think something's happening.
That's dangerous, and there's discussions that are not public. That's very dangerous. Number two, the laundry site.
We're
Anything?
just starting to do a project. They may not want everyone
Yeah.
in their brother to know about it.
Good.
It's
Put
not
it out there and
bad.
have people automatically say we hate it. The laundry site. Anything on the laundry site? Nothing on that.
There actually was today. He made an appointment with me for next week.
Okay,
wow.
good.
So I'm going to actually, you're going to get the email
There'll be a lot
tomorrow.
of development along 28. And then the drive-in site, I noticed there's a whole new construction thing in front of the drive-in site now. Did you notice that? Panels or something in front of it as I drove by
Front of the
tonight?
drive-in, like right at the road?
Oh, that's the pump station, Susan.
That's the pump
That's the
station.
pump station.
Oh, is that, okay, I was going so fast down 28 to avoid the
Yeah, that's
bumps.
where the pump
Is that what it was?
station is.
Okay, okay. I just wanted, yeah, it looks, I didn't realize, but yeah, you're right, it was right on the pump station. Okay, but nothing, but laundry's moving and there may be something on the, because I went to the Great Island Homeowners Association meeting, and the one thing they asked for was, what's an update on that Great Island? And I said, we talk about it all the time, but there doesn't seem to be any progress on it. So I can tell them there may be a teeny tiny bit of something. Okay.
Correspondence or any other staff updates from you?
I think it's good.
Okay. Next meeting, so we're going to meet on the 30th
30th, and then the 6th.
and then on August 6th.
The only thing I would point out is I'm going to go to the police night out on August 5th to kind of do what I did before with some flyers. I'll probably, if I can get a flyer from the library about your August 13th meeting, I can certainly distribute that.
Okay.
And then maybe some information on the muck. So we're just kind of planning projects in Yarmouth, and we can have like a little flyer festival, and people can can find out what's going on. So have contact information, links to the websites, how you can get notified, and all that stuff.
Anything else? Okay, so may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We'll take a roll call. Mr. Rubenstein?
Aye.
A second? Ken?
Yeah, I second it.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Slovak?
Aye.
Ms. Gaquin?
Aye.
And Ms. Britta?
Aye.
And me. Yes. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Will.